Shallan studied the pictures again. The Alethi princess seemed remarkably casual about soul casting. She held one of the most powerful artifacts in all of Roshar, and she used it to create paperweights?
Welcome to Paperweights, the podcast where two self-proclaimed gym rats and shooting enthusiasts delve into the world of literature with a sprinkle of humor. Although their biceps could crush a walnut, don't let that intimidate you. They also have a nerdy side. Mike and Brandon have a voracious appetite for reading, particularly in the fantasy genre, and they want to share their passion with you. So grab your protein shake and your favorite novel and join us for a humorous and insightful journey into the world of books with Paperweights.
That's right, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Paperweights. Unbeknownst to me, and we just found out this week, Yasna Kholin, the sister of the Alethi king, Elhokar, created our podcast. I'm your host, Brandon.
I'm your host, Yasna. Wait, no, Justin.
Oh, welcome back, Justin.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Man, this section was great, huh? Part 3.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happened.
A lot of stuff happened. There's some that's gonna be difficult to actually discuss. Like, there's gonna be some chapters where there's not much to discuss, even though a lot happens. It's just like, blah, here we go. Here's some information. So
Yeah, that's kind of this book though. This book is like all set up, which is fun. It's kind of funny because forgot how much in my years not reading this book, how much it is just like set up. And I assure you, readers and listeners, stuff happens at the end of this book, and it's worth the payoff. I think it's worth setting up the world like this, but it's kind of funny.
there's a whole term for that happens at the end of these books. It's called a Sanderlanche. So
Yeah.
well, before we get started in here, Justin, have you ever been doing chasm duty and just like days and days of chasm duty and your beard just gets disgusting?
It's more like I'm studying under Yasna Kholin and my beard gets dirty, but yeah.
Well, our sponsors, Mudcat Whiskers, they sell beard care products that'll keep that beard uh, well oiled and maintained when you're doing your studies or when you're doing your chasm duties. And if if you don't have a beard, like if you keep your face shaved pretty closely, um,
So if you're
they sell
rock,
candles with those scents. So if you're down in chasm duty and you just can't take the smell, just bring one of your Mudcat Whiskers candles with you.
yeah, that'd be good for Rock since he shaved his beard.
Yeah, well, Rock shaved it all off.
Or shaved, no, he shaved into the weird, yeah,
Yeah,
never mind.
the Unkalaki little
Yeah.
pattern where the from the chin down is shaved, but all of this is long and
Yeah.
it's weird, but pretty cool. So, but yeah, candles they'll help you weather the storm, the high storm.
Nice one.
So head on over to www.mudcatwhiskers.com. Check out everything that they have on their site and use code Paperweights at checkout to save yourself some money. Oh man. Right before we got on here recording, we were talking about the what I did this weekend. So I visited 11 distilleries and breweries in less than a 24-hour period. Um, I don't think I drank a drink at every one of them, but it was damn near close. Two of them weren't quite open yet, so they weren't selling things. But yeah, I did this Capital Area Craft Trail. This third year they've done it in our area, and you just visit all the participating local breweries and distilleries, buy a drink, you get a stamp and a passport, and once you get them all stamped, you get the free tin tacker that you can hang up on your wall. right behind me, that circular one, that's the one from the first year they did. And they make it kind of Louisiana style. So you get the magnolia, which is the state flower the first year, you get the pelican, which is the state bird for the second year, and then the third year they decided to put an alligator on there. So good
We're
old
also
swamps.
we're also known for that, so that works out. I know you're a big fan of like IPAs and stuff. Is there one that stood out?
Um, yeah, so like IPAs lately, I haven't been drinking too much. So Tin Roof though has I'll talk about Tin Roof and Agile. Tin Roof has a Uber IPA, and so their Uber line was like one of their first sours. But this year they made it a sour IPA, so they kind of combined the two types. Um, it was pretty tasty. Had a bunch of different fruit flavors in it. I can't remember exactly which ones. And then Agile had they called it Juiced IPA, and spelled JOOST. I'm not sure how that relates to computer stuff, but all their beers are kind of themed after um, computer things. Like they'll have Code Lime, um, Terminal, Terminal something, just all lemon buffer, just computer terms. But the juiced IPA was more like a juicifer, is a juicy IPA, and um, those I tend to compare to like a mimosa. So it's like a mimosa of beers.
Okay, that's fun.
It's kind of like a citrusy flavor, but with the bitter hops at the end. But as you drink more IPAs, you get kind of used to the bitter hops, and it's just part of it. And then you're able to taste all the other flavors, almost like coffees, like right. So
Mm.
coffee's gonna any coffee you have is gonna have that coffee flavor, unless it's just like one of those coffees that people are like, yeah, I have to have my coffee in the morning, but it's like 900 grams of sugar,
Yeah.
900 calories, and most of it's sugar. It's just like whipped cream on top and stuff. Not a whole lot of coffee in there, but any brewed coffee, it's gonna have that base coffee flavor, even if it's a flavored coffee. So
Mm.
if you don't like coffee, you're not gonna like, and you like chocolate, you're not gonna like the mocha flavored coffee. So
All right, all right. That sounds good. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the IPAs, but I like all the different craft beers and stuff. That's fun.
yeah, most places, so some of them get um kind of choose a certain style of beer, and a lot of times those will be the only ones that they have on tap at
So
the
we have a
brewery.
special guest.
Oh, hey, Nix. Is she laying on your keyboard or no?
Just above it.
Yeah, Fael never came and got on the desks or anything. So
Yeah, it's very cute, but it can also be really annoying when
yeah.
she likes she'll hit like the F11 key, so you'll get like full screen and stuff randomly. Mm, yeah,
All right, you want to jump in now to part three, dying?
yeah, it's a lot of stuff. We should get into it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start off with the epigraphs. There's not too much to talk about here. It kind of connects to the Shallan chapters later on a little bit. Um, and again, with the epigraphs, it's not stated right there, like, oh, these are Yasna's notes, but you can kind of get the feeling from the chapters in this part that these are Yasna. Like these are things that she's found and kind of made notes of. And most of these epigraphs are about the Void Bringers.
Yeah, seems to be her research that she's in Cabranth to do.
Yeah. So she's trying to figure out who the Void Bringers are. she's very interested. We find out in chapters later, she's very interested in Gavilar's first accounts of meeting the Parshindi as well.
Mm.
There's when we get there, there was something that kind of reminded me of Harry Potter, and we'll get to that part when we get to that. Um, yeah, so some of these epigraphs were kind of interesting, because like trying to figure out like, oh, did this have to deal with the Knights Radiant or things like that? How is it connecting to my current experience, like what we are seeing in the current version of Roshar?
Yeah. To be honest, like for me, a lot of the epigraphs, they're like cool, and then I kind of forget about them. I'm like, oh
I do
yeah,
too.
there's like, it's Yasna's stuff, and these are kind of cool, and then like I forget. Also, for this part, I kind of did something I haven't really done too much before. I did it entirely by audiobook,
Oh,
which was
nice.
fun. Yeah. Um, I've done audiobooks before, and I can do them usually with when I it's a book I've already read before. So I
Yes.
decided just to be time efficient to do with that, and you get the audiobook's well done. I like it a lot. So if you got some audible credits, I would recommend picking it up.
Yeah, I have all of them on Audible, and now I have that same issue. If it's a book I've read before, it's a great way for me to be reminded of the major plots. Um, and then every now and then I'll be like, "Oh, this is my favorite part," and I'll really tune in and listen to it. But
Yeah.
for the most part, my brain just it does not stop. Like, and so if my eyes are taking in stuff sometimes, even on a walk, even when I'm driving and I'm listening to an audiobook, I'll start to just tune the audiobook out, and my brain is just like thinking about things and trying to figure stuff out. And so it's not great when it's a book I haven't read before.
Yeah, I think listening to like years of podcasts that kind of trained me to basically like Dan Carlin's Hardcore History is basically an audiobook anyway, so it's kind of trained me to get good at doing audiobooks.
Yeah.
I still
But
prefer the like paper books, but decided to give it a try. And it worked out. I liked it.
now, what speed do you listen to it at?
I bumped it up to 1.3 because they talk super slow in this. And
Yes.
they do a lot of pauses.
It's like a 45 minute or 45-hour audiobook.
Yeah.
And I'll read, it takes me, by the time I finish The Way of Kings, I think 30 hours is about roughly how many
Mm,
hours I have spent with the book in my hand.
yeah.
So
Makes sense.
that's about 1.4 something speed of the audiobook. But I cannot just I can speed read and like skip over the articles and things like that and just kind of go, but a lot of times I'll miss those details. So I like to sit and let my internal voice actually read every word. So
Yeah, yeah, I don't do that.
it's just me. It's how I
Yeah, I
do it.
mean, yeah, if it works, it works. Like I find myself, I guess speed reading. I don't know what it is, but I guess there's some paragraphs I'll just like kind of skim over. If it's just like, especially like Robert Jordan, when it's like two paragraphs of like descriptions of people in the room. Like, is there anything? Okay, I got it. They're wearing some pleated clothes or whatever. We're good.
Yeah, but some of those sometimes you'll miss details later on to try to figure out, oh, wait, no, so and so was there. And you're like, how? Well,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
trim on their dress was around at the bottom, and oh, okay.
yeah. Sometimes it's important, and you go back and read it. But for the most part, that's kind of how I do it. That's just kind of how I've trained myself, I guess, to read.
Yeah.
Now, there's some stuff like I'm reading slowly War and Peace right now, and I go over like every kind of sentence and stuff and look up words and that sort of stuff. So I guess it just depends on if I'm comfortable with the genre or the if it's modern fantasy, it's pretty easy. Like probably if I read Lord of the Rings or something like that, I would go slower and you know, pick over every word.
Yeah. All right. So that's the epigraphs really. So we'll do all the Shallan section. Part 4 and 5, I don't know yet if we're still gonna follow each POV separately. Because at the end of the Kaladin section, this in part 3, uh, they start to cross Adolin and Kaladin a little bit. So I
Yeah,
don't remember.
I would say we probably do the Dalinar Kaladin stuff in a chronological order, and we can do the Shallan all at once.
Okay, yeah. I was trying
That
to remember
makes
because I know a lot of times they will cross over. So but
yeah,
yeah, each part we'll decide if we're gonna do POVs all at once or if we'll do in chapter order.
yeah, because I think they start like actually commingling during chapters
Yes, they did, which
towards
would
the
make
end.
it harder to go, oh, here's all of Kaladin, and
Yeah,
here's all, wait, we missed something.
and
Yeah.
they're kind of the same plot line, so yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, all right. So chapter 29, 29, arrogance. Uh, Fun little pun there. I think Chris would enjoy that. So we're in the Carbrantian conclave, and so Shallan has been a ward of Yasna for 2 months now, and so she's using a span reed to communicate with her brothers at the beginning of here. Um, the brothers are telling her that it's becoming harder to keep the father's death a secret, which is something I forgot to mention last time. Is that they are not um, letting people know that their father is dead, because if they did, then his debt collectors would come for the family and all this. So the brothers are kind of playing interference with the debt collectors while
Yeah,
Shallan is off doing her plan.
and I like how they have like a brother that's known for like gambling and stuff, and he's like secretly selling off their possessions to get money on the deception that it's like for his gambling debts, but it's also just for them. So it's got some little clandestine activities going on.
And good on him for doing that, because he's actually taking responsibility when he has a gambling problem. He's like, well, I guess I can't just have my gambling problem. I need to help my family.
Yeah, even though in last week's interludes we find out that her brothers are kind of insane and evil because they're like torturing a crab. So I don't know if I care too much if their family house gets taken care of. So I guess we'll see if they can be redeemed.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Uh, so we also find out that the father's steward is dead, and he was the one that only knew. He was the only one that knew how to use the Soulcaster,
Yeah,
and they were hoping to bring Yasna's back, and he use it. We do find out. So he wears a pendant that has 3 diamonds in a curious pattern. This When the men come to the house asking about the Fabrial, asking for the father's Fabrial or Soulcaster, one of them had a tattoo, that same tattoo, on his thumb. So, uh, kind of get some connections going on here. Still some mystery, like who are these people? They're obviously connected to some kind of secret society, and why do they want Shallan's father's Soulcaster?
it doesn't he say that like he thinks that their father was like gonna do political office or something, and like he's like the eldest son's like said that I could do it, and they just laughed at me, which is pretty funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was a pretty funny. He's like,
Um,
no, no, I'll do it. And they're like, oh, okay. Okay.
do you think that they know the father's dead?
The men visiting,
Yeah,
with the information so far in the book, I have no idea.
I don't know. It's just if they're like such a big secret society, it seems like it'd be pretty easy to find out that their father's dead if you're paying attention. Like the debtors and stuff, it'd be pretty easy to fool because they wouldn't really know. They're just if the money's there, the money's there. But these guys, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it depends at this point in the book, and I've read the book already, but by by the end of the book, I would say yes, they probably knew at this point too.
I don't know. It's not anything I remember from the rest of this book. It's just a thought I had. But I don't know. I'm interested to see more of this secret society, and we get a little more in the rest of the chapters about them.
Yeah, yeah. It's fun stuff.
Titillating, yeah, titillating clues about an underlying secret society.
Yeah. And what's going on with that and why?
Yeah,
Oh, by the way, another name, it's not in this chapter, but later on, a name shows up again. I was like, oh, okay.
yeah, a name that I totally forgotten showed up where it showed up.
Right?
Yeah,
All right. So after the communication with her brothers, Yasna and Shallan are talking about Shallan's studies. And Shallan is starting to become more invested in Yasna's past, or in Yasna, not her past, but in Yasna, beyond just the Soulcaster. So she's starting to develop a connection to Yasna that she didn't expect to have, which throughout this section starts to cause havoc with her on, well, I can't steal this. I can't go through with my plan. I like her too much. And it's funny because she starts to think, man, I respect her opinion of me, and what would she think of me if I stole something from her? Like, yeah, she would. People tend not to like you very much when you steal from them.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Like it's fun because you get their growing relationship, and then like she's also learning. We'll find out later more about ethics and morality and stuff, which is fun. And then like you get to see her conflicts growing, and it somewhat resolves in this section, which is fun.
Yeah, that's really fun. Uh, so at dinner with Taravangian, Shallan is sketching Taravangian, and it's funny because she nearly insults him by saying his skin is like parchment. I mean, he's an old, fragile man. It kind of reminds me of like Pai Mei or something.
Mm.
Um, and then Yasna and Taravangian end up having a religious debate. Um, and so the chapter title, Arrogance, they let's see, Shallan defined arrogant as it means to be twice as certain as someone who is merely arrogant, while possessing only 1/10 the requisite facts.
Yeah. So yeah, she's researching Gabler stuff and like why the person he killed him, and then like apparently a Lethe method is just to be like certain. You just state stuff as its fact and like belittle all the other arguments, and she's just like, why am I reading this? It's all bad, which is funny.
I think a lot of people do that anyway. They're
Yeah.
just like, at least in modern age with so much like global communication, it's just like if somebody states something and like you put it on the internet, then other people will be like, "Oh, I read this on the internet," and it's like, okay, that is completely false. Oh, in here, so Guevara, I think this is in this chapter. This is cool. Some cool things happen in the chapter that I want to point out. So I think it's the first mention of Dawn Shards and Honor Blades. Still don't know what those are. Um, Yasna definitely doesn't know what they are because um, one of the epigraphs, she commented on that as well. Um, so we discover, and this was just like world building information that most people will probably skip over, but has implications with the Cosmere. So Guevara, whoever Guevara is just the founder of the theory of the three realms. And we do find out that those realms in this section we find out that the realms are the physical realm, the cognitive realm, and the spiritual realm. And um, maybe somebody has visited one of the others already in
Maybe.
this section. Taravangian himself is he built a lot of hospitals. So like the small folk, to reference the last episode of House of the Dragon, the small folk like Taravangian because of what he gives back to the people.
Yeah, Carbaranth has like lots of hospitals, and it seems to be free as well. So
Free
Taravangian
hospitals.
seems like a pretty good guy.
Yeah, we'll see. And then I want to the last thing I have here is the end of this chapter. Um, I highlighted the section and it says Shallan froze, her breath catching, her heart lurching in her chest. She had drawn something standing in the doorway behind the king. Two tall and willowy creatures with cloaks that split down the front and hung at the sides too stiffly, as if they were made of glass. Above the stiff high collars where the creatures' heads should be, each had a large floating symbol of twisted design full of impossible angles and geometries. So Shallan can see things that aren't there. So when she takes her memory, she blinks her eyes and takes her memory and then sketches that memory later on. Things appear that were not available to the naked eye.
Yeah, she's having some Lovecraftian Cthulhu monsters that she's seeing. Uh, they're very cool in this entire section. I just kind of like this year listened to like basically most of Lovecraft's work. Um, it's all on the internet for free because it's public domain. It's all really cool, and this all this all these monsters give really big Lovecraftian vibes. You know, kind of like From Beyond or things like that, where you see things that no one else can see, but they are there, and it kind of like maybe drives you to go insane.
Maybe.
As she thinks for a little bit that she's going insane.
Hey, speaking of going insane and Lovecraftian monsters, my warlock Arvius is has a little bit of madness after asking the living library 7 different questions, succeeding on the first 6, but failing on the last one. And so he suddenly, even though hasn't been hungry for a while now, hasn't had a desire to eat food in a while, um, he has an insatiable urge for carrots now. So
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
hmm.
I do think that um, this chapter and all this Shallan stuff was sorely needed to give her storyline some forward momentum, and
Yes.
not to just have her be like the theft storyline for her. It was interesting, but like this just brings it to a whole nother level and gives her a lot more interest of
I
like what's going on, Wilder World. um, implications. And I think this is why I remember liking Shallan stuff a lot in my first reading is like all the mysteries of these aliens or whatever they are. Um, we'll find out what they are later, but yeah, it's all really cool stuff.
Yeah, I think my first read through, I didn't care much because I was wanting for action. I wanted to move forward, and like the Kaladin chapters and the Dalinar and Adolin chapters, they were giving that because it was like the battles and things like this. And then whenever we cut back to this, I'd be like, all right, some chick reading a book and some uh priest, bald-headed priest that has a hard on for her, giving her bread and jam. Like, what do
Yeah,
I care about this?
I understand that. And if this section didn't have like uh these creatures and things like that, and it was like a bunch of like Haspel romance stuff, I would agree with you. I think this was sorely needed in the book.
Yes,
Um,
especially this part, and then like the end of this, where we find out that Capsule was not just a honest, good guy. He was attempting to kill Yasna, um, which I have questions about that whole plot when we get there. So, but we can move on to chapter 33, cymatics. Um, so one thing I noticed is the other day I pulled out, or yesterday, I pulled out my Arcanum Unbounded book. Hold on. So this is the Arcanum Unbounded. So it's got some like Cosmere stuff on it, but this symbol on the front, I was like, that reminds me of the cities that Capsule was pointing out, and were in the one of the art pages in the book, and where he um talks about how there is a rhythm and a pattern in the Cosmere. And here we tie this back to, is this where, oh yeah, I thought it was. So you remember how I kept pointing out the palindromes, like all the names had palindromes and everything? Capsule was bringing it up here that the cities have to are not so evidence of the Almighty, basically, is there's four big cities he pulls out and shows. He goes, look, this is the shape of these cities, and then he pulls out that little thing and makes the sand move and make the shape of those cities. And Shallan's like, oh, well, what does that mean? He goes, they're so symmetrical. And then look at the names of places and people and things. And so like, just the ties back to symmetry, and that there's so much symmetry in the world that it's it's too much of, sorry, it's too frequent of an occurrence to be just coincidence, basically, is what Capsule is arguing. And that's evidence of the Almighty.
yeah, yeah, and I do like how Shallan, even though she's a believer, she kind of still questions him on um, the validity of that kind of theory. How like it could just be that the same thing is making both of those happen, and it's not the Almighty. Um, so I do like how Shallan still needs still is scientific, even though she has faith, which is an interesting quirk of hers.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that do, like, even even in our world, there's a lot of scientists who do believe in whatever religion. Uh, Christianity is probably the biggest one that has issues with science. Um, at least in the Western. in the Western world for sure.
and historically.
Yes. So, yeah, some funny things happen in this chapter. Well, one, we find out Shallan just snaps memories. So I think of this as like somebody just like snapping pictures on their phone of somebody doing something when they're not, when they don't know. So it's like almost an invasion of privacy because she can recall it absolutely perfectly later, right? So it's like, don't do that, Shallan. It's weird. But she does it to Yasna as Yasna uses her soul caster so she can try to learn how to use it.
Yeah,
Um,
her ability is really interesting. Like we don't know if it's specifically tied to magic or anything, or it's just like a weird quirk that she was born with. But it'd be really useful. Just basically be a human
camera.
camera. And well, it's not even a camera because we find out later she can like super like she can just have that image and then kind of change it to like put herself next to them and things like that. So it's like a little bit she has like Photoshop as well.
Yes. I wonder if that's it would not surprise me if Brandon Sanderson was like, but she can, it's not just a picture, but she can edit it. Ah, Photoshop. She is the camera and she's the Photoshop. So one thing here, so one of Shallan's uh sketches was of Yasna with a crumpled piece of note paper, and then shortly after it was a burned paper. And so she questions herself, like, what is Yasna hiding? And I'm curious too. But I don't have any leads or clues yet.
I
But
wonder if it was like some span read conversations that she was having because we see that Shallan burns her correspondence as well. So that
yeah,
would make sense.
that is definitely what I get. But as to who she's talking with, I don't know.
Yeah.
She
I mean,
seems to know way more than she lets people know that she knows. And, even Shallan questions that later on, where when Yasna comes in and, she asks Capsule, it's like, hey, are you planning on having Shallan steal my soul caster for you? And Shallan's like, wait, what? This is weird. Like, does she know?
I think it could be that she's part of a different secret society. Would that would make sense? I don't know if there is two secret societies, but if there is, she could be one. Like Assassin's
There's a
Creed.
lot of
I don't know, maybe she's part of a secret society. Maybe it's
them.
just Assassin's Creed. She's a Freemason versus the Illuminati.
And so, yeah, maybe so.
I mean,
I
that is
I
the plot of those games, which is kind of insane.
Yes. I outside of that, speaking of Capsule and not secret societies, Capsule, he spends a lot of time jamming bread and jam down Shallan's throat. And you know, we're conquering this whole section here, so we already know that the bread is poisoned, and his goal was to have Yasna eat the bread and the antidotes in the jam. And Yasna doesn't like jam, but Shallan loves jam, so that was the way to give the antidote without really showing off that he's trying to kill. Um, but really, the assassination attempt to me came out of nowhere. Like there wasn't much evidence that he was trying to kill her, except like a weird like as you're reading, it's like, why is he so worried about jam? How did you feel about that?
I liked it. I mean, it's very confusing reading it because it's from Shallan's point of view and she's confused and also dying. Um, and then you also have like I had to reread it, but Yasna eats the bread, which you figure out why that happens. But the first time, I'm like, she ate the bread. What the? I was confused. Um, it makes sense and it's cool. And it probably, I would guess that the bread and jam wasn't always poisoned because that would be a waste of a lot of poison. uh, it's like I have like 4 months worth of poison. So probably he was just building her trust for a while of it, and then like maybe I'll try today to poison Yasna. Um, but it was interesting, and also like that he's part of that secret society that her father was in. Uh, it's cool. That's also why I think maybe they know about her father and were like, maybe you can use Shallan to get to Yasna, and just kind of chill out on the father part. Um, I don't know. I think it made sense. Also, I like it because it killed off Caspel and he was kind of ran his course. Like
Yeah.
I didn't need more chapters of him like flirting with Shallan.
Right. Um, yeah, I have questions about that later on. You brought it up, but I can't remember. But we'll tackle that in the chapter. So yeah, what's his name? Or not what's his name. Yasna also asks when she shows up, she asks Capsule, "Hey, that's nice that you have all those templates for those cities, but can you do Uruthero too?" And he's like, "What? That doesn't exist. That's not a real city." And she's like, "Yeah, it is." Like,
I like how Urither is basically Camelot. We just need a cut to the Knights Radiance dancing. It's a silly place.
on second thought, no, tis a silly place.
Man, I kind of want um Holy Grail now, but it's Way of Kings. And Dalinar's King Arthur. And he's going around collecting all the nice radiant.
And then Adolin shits in a shard plate,
Yeah.
which he does. He admits
Yeah.
that later on. Spoiler, but yeah.
Yeah, you just have it be a comedy and it gets to Kaladin's part and it's just a fucking tragedy. It's just so depressing. It's like um oh my god. A depressing movie. I forgot the name of it, but pick a depressing movie and it's just like that.
What about Grave of Fireflies?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah.
Great for the Fireflies. I was thinking of
Requiem for a Dream.
yeah, Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah. Either one of those works really well.
Yeah.
And then the capsule Shallan part would be like the castle with Zoot and what's his name? Uh
Yeah.
the brave or the pure
Yeah. Galahad.
Galahad the pure is it Galahad the pure when he
I think
shows
so.
up in the castle with all the maidens and they're like,
Yeah.
"You must punish us. It's my turn." Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I wonder if the like sand stuff is gonna come back and like if they're gonna like find the pattern for Urithu or anything like that. Um I mean it's a cool world building if it never comes back, but I was just curious. I'm curious if it ever will come back.
Yeah, I mean there is a form of art in our world that uses sound vibrations to move sand into patterns. So I think that's kind of feels like that's the inspiration for this scene, and it's
Yeah.
more of like a lot of times it also reminds me of fractals. So a lot of times people will use fractals as evidence of um, order in the world because they exist everywhere and they just like continuous and they go keep going down and repeating a pattern. And it's like, all right, well, if everything is random, why is this a pattern? So it's an argument that would fit here because Capsule being religious could argue those same things.
Yeah, and if it doesn't come back, I mean it's fine. It's like you know, good old theology lesson, things like that, which is interesting, especially how, you know, to this world you get to see what the Ardents believe. You get more of the Ardents. I was curious, like, because we don't know where Urathuru is, so maybe an interlude would be like, I found the sand pattern, and like it'll rise from the ocean like Atlantis or something.
I don't know. We'll see. We
Yeah.
shall see. That will be a lesson for another day. So, chapter 36, we've got the lesson, and this takes place while Yasna is bathing, right?
Partly.
Yasna's getting her bath on, and Shallan's there just talking to her, and rather Shallan is reading. So Shallan's reading a book, which is Gavilar's account of meeting the Parshindi. Learns that Gavilar and the Alethi learned of the gem hearts and the shell beasts from the Parshindi. And Gavilar thought the Parshindi had shard blades and wanted a treaty with them to control that, so that it's like, okay, if the thinking was if he were to treat with them, he would control, and they were partners. They wouldn't be able to trade the shard blades without offending the Alethi. So it would be a way to keep tabs on where those shard blades are and have them effectively under control of his nation and armies and stuff. So they wouldn't be used against him, right?
Do we know how many shard blades the Pershindi had? Because I think it said that Dalinar has won a couple on the Shattered Plains. And we know that there's at least one shard bearer left. I think we met the shard bearer, the Pershindi shard bearer. So I'm curious how many they actually won from the Pershindi during the 6-Year War.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's a lot. Most of the time, so most people don't believe that Parshindi have any. I remember reading a paragraph that stated that they tend not to, like the Parshindi don't summon them often because they don't want people to know. Because I think it was Dalinar at some point, or Gavilar. One of them had seen. I don't know if it was in the past or current, but somebody saw a Parshindi like hold out their hand as if they were about to summon, and then when they saw an Alethi looking at, they dropped their hand down.
Yeah, that was before the battle, but I'm just curious because I'm pretty sure it's stated that like Dalinar won at least one or two shards from the Pershindi, but they can't have that. They couldn't have had that many to begin with, or else like it would have been a very bloody war.
I
With
agree.
like if there was like 10 Pershindi shard bearers, because like I'm trying to think how many the Alethi have. It doesn't seem like a lot because Sadius doesn't even have one. Dalinar is the reason he's so powerful. He has two full shard bearers, and then you have the king, and then we haven't really said that. Well, we haven't really met any of the other high princes, but I doubt they have more than maybe 5 or 10 total among the. Probably not even 10.
In
Probably
the
like five.
in the interludes, and this isn't the Alethi, but in the interludes, we find out that the king of Yakaved um, has
What, three? Right?
he has a shard blade, I think, and then he has two full shard bearers in that fight with Zeth. Because that Zeth has to deal with three shard blades, but then two shard plate
Hmm.
bearers. So I don't know. Yeah, it's not. It can't be a whole lot. I mean, there's definitely not a whole lot in that we've seen with the Alethi princes as well. So
Yeah, it just seems like the Parshendi couldn't have, just from a military perspective, considering they don't attack coordinated enough. Like if the Parshendi had like three shard bearers, anybody like Sadius couldn't win a battle because his troops would just get massacred. I mean, even like I don't know why the Shard Bearer doesn't take place in combat. Honestly, the Parshindi one. It seems like, if you were worried about losing your shard, you just have the Shard Bearer retreat if like Dalinar and them showed up. But like every time Sadeas comes, you could just wreck his entire force with one shard, because like he can't really do anything against the Shard Bearer.
Right.
So
Unless you're
just
Kaladin.
yeah, unless you're Kaladin, unless you have magic powers.
Or Seth. I mean, but I mean, Seth has a shard blade as
Blade,
well, but most of the time he doesn't even use it.
yeah. But regarding this chapter, at least this first part, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever want somebody to help you in a bath? It's like in movies all the time. It just seems not fun. Just be like lying there and have like somebody come and scrub you down and stuff. It's just like, I'm good with that. I don't need that.
Occasionally, I wish somebody would come and scrub my back for me. Um, but yeah, as far as other stuff, not really. But I think it just you see it a lot in fantasy, and it's like it's just a weight of a uh, a leisure or
Yeah, prestige and stuff like that.
yeah, yeah.
Like
I'm trying to think of the specific word, but yeah,
like I understand like needing maids and stuff to help you dress, because the women's clothes in that time period were insane. You couldn't really do it yourself, especially highborn stuff. But I know I never really understood the bathing attendants, just because it's seems weird.
but also, we live in a world with running water, so in a world without running water, you might need somebody to pour the different pitchers or whatever of water on you, and then they're going to clean the tub after you're done as well. So
Kharbranth does have plumbing. Find out.
oh, they do?
Yeah. Shallan mentions it. Like Shallan didn't have like running water in Jah Keved, but this has like basically plumbing.
Okay, I think I missed over that. So yeah, during this bath, Shallan is takes the opportunity to swap the Soulcaster when she's like grabbing clothes to hand to.
At the end of the chapter, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But so this chapter basically
Oh,
Shallan and
at
them,
first she doesn't take. Sorry,
yeah.
I misread my thing here.
Yeah.
But,
So basically, she's if you just want a summary of the chapter, she's attending Yasna, and Yasna's like, "You look pent up. We should go have philosophy in action." So then she takes Shallan to a seedy place in the city and like murders 3 people who are thieves. And then she's like, I did a death wish. I'm Charles Bronson. Was I good or bad? Peace. And then Shallan's like, you're a monster, and she steals the Soulcaster.
yeah,
That's the highbrow thing, or the little summary of this chapter.
yes. So Shallan actually uses Yasna's own words as the catalyst to swap the Soulcaster at the end. Because Shallan, let's see here. Yasna says, there will be times when you must make decisions that churn your stomach, Shallan Devar. And she was like, fuck right, I do. I'm going to steal this Soulcaster now, even though it churns my stomach to betray you like this.
Yeah,
So.
it is funny that Yasna's like, I've seen Death Wish. I'm gonna go do a Death Wish. And if you haven't seen Death Wish, it's really good. Charles Bronson. Basically, it's a vigilante movie from like the 70s. He even does the thing. He actually does the thing, because he's in basically Charles Bronson's wife and daughter get like raped and murdered. and he's like, "All right, it's time for me to go kill scumbags." And one part of it, he's just like sitting in a restaurant and he's just like flashing $100 bills, and just walks out of the restaurant. Guys try to jump him, and just kills them all. So basically, this.
Yeah.
Um, it's a good movie if you've never seen it.
I think I've seen it, but it's been a while. I know you've talked about it to me before, so.
Don't watch the remake with Bruce Willis. It's not good.
So there were some interesting things that in this chapter. So when men dictate books, women will often write a subtext which is never shared with the men. This is like a secret between the women that are reading and writing these books. It's like, and it may be, you know, it'll be counter to what the man was dictating. It's like, well, he was drunk when he said this, so it's probably not true, or something similar like that.
It's pretty ridiculous, but it's funny. So yeah, this is what he said, but this is what it actually means. My husband's an idiot.
Oh man, that reminds me of I haven't watched it, and I forget the name of it, but there was a documentary, and there was a person with cerebral palsy, and they didn't talk as much, and the mother would be like, this is so and so, this is what he goes by, this is his name, and he's a vegetarian or something. And she's like, the mother's like, he's this, and this. But the person, this woman that came to help, and she was like she decided to take the time to ask him, like, what do you want to be called? What do you, and so he would give this information in whatever way. He wasn't really verbal. Like he was barely verbal when this worker met. And so over time, he became to trust this worker and gave information. And there was one time where the worker, uh, instead of saying, like, I think it was in a classroom setting. So instead of saying what the guy actually said, she changed it into something else. And then like he got mad at her and said, "Don't ever do that again." And so she didn't. She and again, I didn't watch the whole thing, but this kind of reminds me of that. It's like, okay, you're putting words into other people's mouths because of some situation. Like in this case, men can't read, so they're not going to know that you wrote something counter to what they said. I mean, you're writing exactly what they said, but you're putting a subtext down at the bottom, like, "Hey, look, blah 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 blah." So
Yeah, it's still pretty ridiculous that men can't read in this world, but it makes for a good fantasy world, so I'm fine with it.
yeah, you gotta move away from stuff. So before the Chasm Fiends and the Shattered Plains and the hunts there, Jim Hearts were collected because Jim Hearts do power the Faberils and are needed for soul casting. Because you need the Stormlight and you need a vessel for the Stormlight. But they were you collected from creatures named land Sirens in the country of Amia, which is where Axes the Collector is from. The shapeshifter guy that studies the spread. So we get a
It was
little,
cool.
yeah, he is really cool. So we get a connection back to Amia again here. So
I hope he comes back. Um, like
Brandon,
for him,
write a short novella about him.
yeah. Um, yeah, it seems like in this world, like if the if like creature gets big enough, it will just have a gem heart. Um, some reason humans. So if you like a giant, if we ever get giant humans, maybe they'll have gem hearts. That'd be pretty cool.
Attack on Titan.
Attack on
Attack on
Titan.
Roshar.
Attack on Roshar.
I can see that happening. I mean, we already saw thunderclasts in
Whatever those are.
yeah, giant rock creatures.
Yeah. Some druids start attacking Roshar. Yeah, it's interesting that all the that there are different um like big megafauna with gym hearts. But it seems like they're not learning from the past though, because they got extinct and they're just hunting the chasm fiends with impunity, so they might get extinct as well. They're not
When you
thinking
overhunt,
about long term cultivation of these things because there can't be that many chasm fiends,
no, I
and
wouldn't imagine so. I mean, you'd see them all over the place, right?
yeah, and they're huge. I mean, the Shire Plains is huge, but like there can't be more than like at the most 1,000 chasm fiends of
I mean,
various sizes and ages and stuff.
look, if you go out into the deserts in western, into the Sahara Desert, right? If there were 50-foot long or like blue whale sized lizards in the Sahara Desert, people would know. Like, you'd be like, okay, there's a lot of them. Where are they gonna hide?
And what are they going to eat?
Yeah, because
So
like I
they,
mean, all the land isn't as big as the ocean. So like blue whales in the ocean, okay, you could probably travel through the ocean and never see a blue whale. But if you travel through like the Sahara Desert, you're gonna see some blue whale sized lizards in the desert.
definitely. But yeah, so like at 6 years of dedicated hunting, every couple of weeks you're killing a chasm fiend. That's the only time they attack, and they said like every couple, like maybe one twice a week they're doing it, which just it seems a little odd to me. The number of times they skirmish in these things over, like it would make sense, like if like they're actually skirmishing over other things as well. But if every time it's a chrysalis gym heart, like
So
they fought like I don't know, killed like a couple of thousand of these chasm fiends over 6 years.
theory, if they're kaiju like animals, they're coming from a portal from another world.
That would make more sense.
And they think that well, we know the drawing from Shallan is that Void Bringers look like chasm fiends, right? But at the same time, they Yasna believes that Parshendi are like ancestors or related to Voidbringers. So maybe the Parshendi can become a chasm fiend.
I would say you jumped the gun with that a little bit, but
Hey, look, I'm just saying. That was two different theories, by the way. One is there's a portal from another world, but
yeah,
also if Yasna has evidence that
just say that part we have not read yet in this book. So spoilers for the listeners.
I didn't spoil anything.
Spoil the end of this book. What are you talking about?
No, I didn't. I talked about Yasna
Mm-hmm.
having the drawing of a chasm
Oh,
fiend.
okay. Well, I spoiled the end of this book.
Now I'm just talking about Yasna's drawing or Shallan's drawing of a chasm fiend from a book that she showed to Dalinar and them at the end of the last part. And so we know that it looks like a chasm fiend.
Yeah, yeah. I'll let you go, but yeah, you did spoil some stuff.
So no, there's theories there that have no proof. So
Yeah, but if it turns out to be chasm fiends are coming from a Pacific Rim type rift, uh, I like that better. Just I was just think it's just occurred to me about how many chasm fiends they must have killed in this war. It's so many.
yeah,
Like it's because they've been fighting for 6 years, and they fight at least like once a week somewhere on the plains, which is a lot. So like, yeah, there have to be at least like 1,000 chasm fiends dead in this war.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, there's 52 weeks in our year times six. That's at least like 400 or something.
yeah, I think there's 500 something days, and so there's like 100 weeks or something, because each month has the same number of days, and every week has 5 days in it. And we know a week has 5 days from the book because a slave's wage is 2 marks per, or one, a slave's wage is 1 mark per day for a bridgeman. And so he gets 5 in a week, and he gives one to Gaz. So there's 5 days in a week. Um, I think there's 5 or 6 weeks in a month. We don't know how many months there are, but I think there's whatever. So yeah, there's, if it's two, then there's 12 a month. And if we have, that's at least 100 or so in a year.
Yeah.
Chasm fiends.
Maybe they're overstating how many battles they had. Like Kaladin doesn't really know, but there's at least 150 in 6 years that they've killed.
Yeah, that,
Which,
I mean, if 150 in 6 years and there's 1,000, like if there was 1,000 when they started and 150 died in 6 years, I think that's enough. I think that's a low enough kill rate for them to survive, maybe.
maybe it depends on how often they spawn. Usually, at least in fantasy and stuff, like old creatures spawn really like dragons and stuff lay eggs like every 100 years or something. So it would have to grow super like very slowly to get that big.
Yeah, it would take a while for it, unless it had some supernatural,
Sure.
and they're all supernatural. But
Yeah, maybe the high storm like just beefs them up and they just grow really big during the high storm because it's all the storm light or something.
have have they mentioned anything about molting or anything?
I think that's what they're doing at the when they go into their
They're
little cocoon.
pupating.
Yeah, they're pupating.
Is that molting?
I think I think so. I think they're like shedding their skin to like a lobster or something to get bigger.
Okay, so they go and attack them when they're vulnerable.
I don't really know why they do it like out in the open. It seems more safe to do it like in the chasms.
Maybe they can't breathe underwater.
The chasms aren't underwater.
If the high storm comes, they could potentially
True,
flood.
true.
And
But
so maybe
we've
they
never
can,
we've never seen them pupate in a high storm, or if they do, they're everybody else is inside. So
but we also don't know how long it takes for them to pupate, because whenever they try to go pupate, they get attacked.
that's true. Yeah, maybe they pupate before a high storm, and the high storm comes and infuses them their gem heart with stormlight. They can like break out and be like twice as big or whatever. That would make sense.
Maybe their gym heart's powered by the high storm, and that's how they grow.
Yeah. So like they go they like so they have to leave the chasms to go up and like get in their new chrysalis so they're protected from the high storm, and then the high storm comes and like lights up your gem heart and they like burst out and they're all bigger and stuff. That would make sense. All right, that's cool.
That's cool.
All right, Sanderson, your thing makes sense if that's what it does. That's my head canon now. So
Yeah, and literally, I have no memory of where these things go. Like, I have limited memory of the future of this stuff. So this literally is me like theorizing things without
yeah,
spoilers.
I don't know if they'll ever like get into it if it really matters. I don't even know how long we stay in the Shattered Plains. I have vague memories of 2 and 3, but so this might not even be an answer. It's just a cool little thing to theorize about. But anyway, this back to Shallan because we got way off track. I like this chapter a lot. It gives Yasna some interesting kind of more character. You get to see her. You get to see that like somebody hurt her in the past. You're not sure who. She's like those men. She seems to have been hurt by somebody. And like you get to see soul casting in all of its glory, where you could just like murder people with lightning and turn them into fire and shit like that, which seems pretty powerful and really cool.
Yeah, that was fun, and she'll revisit it later with Shallan's memories of that. So we can move on to Burned Into Her. We spent 25 minutes on the bath chapter, but hey, look, you
That
got
is
off on
what-
tangents sometimes, but it's fun conversation.
And that is one of the most important Shallan chapters, though.
It
'Cause,
is.
like it. She actually steals the Soulcaster, for not the right reason, more to punish Yasna, than to like save her family. But her mission is done. So goodbye, Shallan. You're just gonna go home and have fun.
End of her story.
Yep.
Your family's saved.
Yeah, she never shows up again. Oh wait, 39. She shows up again.
She shows up in chapter 39, Burned Into Her. Three chapters later. So now Shallan is, so it's 3 days have passed. It's funny. 3 chapters, 3 days. Shallan is now sketching the deaths of the men in the alley and thinking of philosophy and how to condemn Yasna. She's like, surely there's some philosopher that will condemn her action. Excuse me. Condemn her actions. So she talks to her brother Balat and tells her that the men who originally gave their father the Fabrial, he tells her that they visited again. At which point she says, "Hey, look, I swapped the Fabrial. I have the Fabrial, so we're gonna be saved. It's gonna be cool." But now she's paranoid that Yasna knows as well. And so she ends up going for a walk with the Fabrial. She always keeps it in her safe pouch. Let's see. Capsule sends, and just for the sake of the summary, Capsule sends bread and blue bar jam. He always names what kind of jam there is. And so Shallan ends up in a garden, and there's a nice little page of drawings that she did that's in the book. She's studying snails and shale bark and trying to get the Soulcaster to work, but it does not do anything. And then she wonders what would happen if she can't figure out how to use it. And she should she turn it over to the men seeking the father, to the Ardents, or to Taravangian. So she's like, maybe I can give this to somebody else. Because I think she doesn't think Yasna deserves it anymore.
Well, she also knows she can't just give it back because she get all of her things would be for nothing. You know, she'd just get thrown in jail or whatever. So she does feel really bad. I like this chapter because it shows that Shallan is smart. She's like, I need to stay here, gauge Yasna's reaction to the theft, and then I can like spin the blame on like the Ardents because she is already suspecting the Ardents for doing something weird. Or like I can see like if she gets it repaired, like how does she get it repaired? You know, just for more information on things like that. I'm curious. You mentioned how the jams are always named. I wonder if he did that. Well, partially just for more world building, but two, to make it so when the strawberry jam is named, it's not like, oh, it's random jam. Like now the jam is named, and you get like suspicious. It's just like, oh, the strawberry jam. Cool.
Probably. But yeah, he
God, cat.
he he definitely talked on the jam. So like Sanderson likes to have details in the world, no matter how small they are. So he wouldn't just be like jam, like all the time. Oh, hey, look, they had jam here. And so, it gave he used it as a device for Capsule to talk to Shalon and try to figure out Shalon's personality. And like, it's like, oh, if you like this jam, it says this about you. So it was like it was a conversation piece used as a conversation piece by naming the jams, and of course, it doesn't throw a red flag whenever you do name it at the end, which happens, you know, to be that okay. Now, why is it named now? Um, but also, it was very suspicious. Although I couldn't have I couldn't have guessed that it would have led to poison and antidote, but it'd be like, why is this dude so worried about jam? Like, why is that his jam?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well done, and obviously, is serves multiple purposes. But it just kind of brought me up that yeah, he always names the jams. So then when like you have the jam betrayal, um, you're not like suspicious of anything until like he starts freaking out and like run away and dies. Um, yeah, this chapter's good.
Yeah,
I like the Shalon stuff.
Shalon does another little detail, and I don't have much after this for this one. There's a Shalon is carrying a concealed weapon, and she mentions that again. She says there was another aspect, and she's trying to condemn Yasna for killing those men, and then she realizes that, oh, I didn't even try to protect us either that night. And so in the book it says there was another aspect of that night that Shalon had to think of. She carried uh, a concealed weapon that she hadn't used. She felt foolish for not even thinking of getting it out that night, but she wasn't accustomed to, and she was interrupted at that point with that thought.
Yeah, and we know what that is from later chapter, but we can talk about that when that comes about because
Yeah.
it's kind of insane and it makes her way more interesting. I just have one more quick question for this. Do you think Yasna was morally in the right or in the wrong for what she did?
So Yasna does say that she did not leave the tavern with that in mind. Like,
No, she did. She knew what she was doing.
no, well, sh- there was a bit where she said that she didn't either she didn't view that as an opportunity to teach her a lesson,
Yeah,
or
she said that basically she was always gonna do this. Like she didn't do it just for Shalon, but she saw it as a way to also teach Shalon a lesson. But she was always gonna
okay,
go and murder those people.
okay, yeah, I was forgetting the small
Yeah.
details. I remember she said something that the purpose of what she was doing wasn't always blah, but I couldn't remember what blah
Mm.
was. So she was always going to kill them, but it wasn't just to prove a lesson to
Yeah.
Shalon. So, um,
Because she says that like she was doing it to help Taravangian kind of clean up the streets because Taravangian's a weak king and apparently doesn't have any say on his like captain of the guards and things like that.
yeah, I mean, if you're getting rid of, so we know they've already done those guys probably have robbed, maybe murdered, maybe raped, and done other nefarious things to some people in that area. Um, and she didn't necessarily like, walk up to these dudes and be like, "Hey, fight me," and then get them to fight her. She was just like walking down the street, and they like saw her and came to attack her. And so like, she wanted a reason to kill them, but they also just made the decision themselves to attack her. So I don't necessarily condone murder, but at the same time, Nix's ears are
Yeah.
it doesn't bother me. It was just funny. I looked up and I saw her ears at the bottom of the screen, and she's just staring at you. I um no, I think I think it's morally justified.
I think it's very gray. Like she definitely did first degree murder, which is pretty bad. But there are also bad people. She basically pulled a Dexter, where she murdered bad people.
Yeah.
But she definitely did premeditate murder, which is never good. So yeah, it's interesting. I like the kind of makes her a more interesting character because she's very morally gray. She's fine with doing murder one and using her crazy magic abilities to turn people into smoke and shit, which is pretty gnarly.
Smoke, fire, and crystal.
Yeah, I wonder. It's weird, like because she Shallan says like ardents are forbidden for using soul casting on people. Um, she's knocked my other computer's mouse off the desk. Um, so like I wonder like what people are gonna think when like there's just a crystal statue of just a random dude just chilling in the walkway. They're gonna be like, huh, I wonder who soul casted this guy into a crystal.
Crystal.
Oh wait, it's the only person that's not an ardent that has a soul caster. I wonder what she did because like no one there's no like at least not in the book like hubbub around the streets of like oh my god but 3 days ago this guy just suddenly turned to crystal. So maybe she like had maybe she has some people to like cover it up or had the king cover it up. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, because like
Maybe
the
she
other one
soul casted. Maybe she can use a soul caster to like carry it, like float it.
yeah, if she then like after she turned the crystal turned into smoke or something, that would have been made more sense. But like no, there's just a statue of a crystal dude just chilling there, probably weighing a lot.
Yeah, I would imagine it weighs a lot.
So like it's just there forever now.
Oh.
I'm guessing she was like Taravangian, go go get this crystal guy. Sorry about that.
These coordinates right here. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I'll drop you a pin. I had to do some murders. Anyway, it was a good chapter. I like it.
It was.
I like it makes Yasna more interesting. It gives Shallan more character of like questioning her moral fabric. You get some fun questions about it.
All right, so we'll move on to Beggars and Barmaids, chapter 42. So let's see. Yasna gives Shallan leave for a day. So she goes off. She starts to wonder if Yasna duped her with a fake soulcaster. She goes back to so she leaves the Veil or the Conclave, or I think she leaves the Conclave and goes to the Veil. And she's outside of Yasna's room when she hears a noise, and a maid came out of the room. But prior to that, like she hears a voice that says, "Who are you?" And we don't find out who that was yet. Uh, she then uses the opportunity to go into the room because she tells the maids like nobody is supposed to go in there. In fact, look, you should go to Yasna right now and tell her that you were in her room, and so she goes in while she's gone, so she can use that opportunity to search her room to try to find how to use the Soulcaster. She doesn't find anything about the Soulcaster, but does find a notebook on her notebook on Voidbringers. Starts to wonder why she's so interested in Voidbringers. And then Kabzul shows up and invites her to eat jam again. He just really lays it on thick, lays on the flirting thick this chapter, like super, super, super. And he's like, I'll leave the Ardentia and we can, we can get married and stuff. And she Capsule then admits he thought of using Shallan to get Yasna's Soulcaster because the devotary. I always said devotary, like a devotary, but the audiobook says devotary. Uh, that they would love it. And she learns that Captain Tozbek had written to Shallan saying he'll be there to pick her up in a week's time. So it has been 3 weeks now since she swapped the Soulcaster. And Shallan is starting to like her false life more than her real one. She finds it more interesting, her life with Yasna, as opposed to the life of swapping a Soulcaster to save her family.
Yeah, it seems like her life was pretty terrible. We've been getting hints that her father was
Abusive.
abusive to all of her siblings, including her, kind of locking her away from the world. So yeah, it makes sense that she would like this freedom, and you're traveling with this heretic, and you're like doing all sorts of scary but fun excursions, murdering people. You're meeting this, um, handsome
Horny priest.
horny priest. You get to learn more about the priests, how like the Ardents are like essentially kind of like owned by the state, which is interesting because of the hierarchy. They're basically unable to like um, hold any real power.
They can't even tell you what to do. Like there's no dogma even. There's not even a dogma really. They act as therapists or advisors. Like you go and say, "Hey, I was thinking of this," and they'll be like, "Well, here's some options."
It's interesting. Um, their contrast with the Steel Ministry and Mistborn, how both of these kind of religious systems are like owned by the state, and they're kind of like administrators and things like that. It's kind of another through line with the Cosmere and those two religious systems. I think you get a little bit more on the devotees, how they're basically like religious callings, kind of like is there anything in Catholicism that reminds you of the devotees? It kind of reminds me of like the vows of like chastity and stuff, but not nearly as codified as they are in
Yeah, so like the different devotees could be like, the different orders of monks or orders of nuns. Um, they'll have different focuses on what their um fellowship or their focus is. So whether it's for the poor or for knowledge, like scholarship, because I know what's his name? I'm going blank. Uh Thomas Aquinas. He was big on like libraries and knowledge and that kind of stuff. And then you got, Mother Teresa, who's um oh my God,
The poor in India.
yeah, I'm trying to think of the word. Um Not discernment, but God, I can't remember the word. And it's gonna bug the hell out of me. But it's basically the call. Like I keep thinking of the word, and the only word that comes to mind is the calling. But that's in this book. Um, so yeah, that's what I think of when I think about the devotaries. And I think it was this chapter where Capsule was talking about all the different types of devotaries that are like in contrast to his. Was it
Yeah,
this one or was it
yeah,
the
he's
one
trying.
before?
I think it's this one. He's trying to like basically convert Shalon to his devotee, because hers is like purity, which seems kind of a little boring to him,
Yeah.
and to her, she's like, yeah, my father picked it. Um,
It's almost like her father was like, "Hey, you're gonna be a virgin." Like that's what I think of with of purity, the devotee of purity. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna hide you away and
yeah, got the. I wonder if she has a purity ring.
yeah,
Yeah, I like the it is Foreignism seems pretty uh like related-ish to like Catholicism, Christianity, pretty well. So it's fun seeing like the parallels and the differences between that. I was a grown up in Catholic school, so I know a decent amount of like Catholicism doctrine and things like that. And it's fun. He's a Mormon. I don't know quite what Mormons believe, and the differences between their faith and like Christian and Catholic faith. But it really did get they really do give me a kind of Catholic Vornism parallel at least.
I can see that. Yeah, most of what I know about Mormonism is from that episode of South Park. So, however true that is, I'm not going to claim
Yeah, because
anything.
you have like you have the Almighty, which is obviously God, and you have the heralds, which are like the angels, and you have like the Knights Radiant, which would be like hit the Almighty's human servants that fell and all that stuff. And you have like the Ardents are very obviously priests, obviously, but they seem more kind of like more like Catholic priests or like brothers, even though they can,
Monks.
yeah, monks, they can like marry, um, which is interesting. And they have like it's not state mandated, but they don't like hold property and things like that. So yeah, it's cool. I liked learning more of the religion. I think it's going to be more important. I don't remember it being more important. I can just assume it's
I
going to be
think
more
it is
important.
state mandated for
Yes,
Informism.
yeah, but not in Catholicism. It's more.
Right. They do well, I mean they can hold property. They take a vow of chastity and a vow of poverty. So it's not you're not going to have priests that are millionaires.
Unless you're
I mean,
other mega priests that are not really. They're kind of a scummy.
yeah, but that's not going to be in Catholicism. Like
I think some of them are supposed Catholics, but we'll get away from that.
yeah, yeah.
The mega churches. I don't know if they're probably not actually priests. They're just the preachers. Um,
You talking about like Joel Osteen?
yeah,
Yeah, he's not Catholic.
they're Christian. Yeah, I guess that is a big difference.
Yes.
There was an entire Reformation and lots of wars back in the day for the difference of that. So makes sense.
Yeah. So those people are not Catholic, and as far as I know, I mean, it'll differ between churches, but Joel Osteen does not have a poverty vow in place.
Yeah. And also like more Vornism, like back in the day, the Catholic Church, basically ruled the known world, kind of like the hierarchy, and it kind of fell, not through real actually kind of civil war with the Reformation, all that stuff. It's just fun seeing all the parallels to Catholicism in this. I definitely see that's where his inspiration was for Vorinism.
Yep. All right, you
Anyway,
want to move on?
yeah, I'm glad we're done with Caspel. I'm kind of over his kind of horny priest ways.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't really see much of him after this chapter. But yeah, the next chapter is really fun. It's titled Shadesmar, uh, which I know what that is, and you see it in this chapter, but he doesn't name it. Um, this is a week later, um, after the last chapter, and so Shallan has been reading up on accounts of the first meetings of the Parshendi. This is where, um, so this is where I was telling you, it reminded me of Harry Potter. So like the whole trope of child folk tales actually being historical events. So like Harry Potter did that, like with the Deathly Hallows and the Tales of Beedle the Bard, and even some of the characters, like they would tell, I think Hermione, I think it was Hermione that was like, no, this is this is child stuff. We need to worry about the Horcruxes, not the Deathly Hallows, because that's just child's tale. So, Shallan wonders why Gavilar was so interested in all the aspects of the Parshendi, even though he wasn't a scholar. Um, which is different. She thinks it's weird because he's a man that's not a scholar, but he wants to know so much more about the Parshendi. And she wonders if she should start an exit strategy since Tazbek is arriving the next day. But then, so she's like, all right, I should start this. I should get away from talking with Yasna. And then she goes, you know what? Tell me about Urithiru. So she asks Yasna an in-depth question. It would almost be like, all right, Justin, we're done talking. I'll see you around. But tell me your thoughts on the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand.
Well, Brandon, blah blah blah. Blah.
It's just
Yeah,
like,
I like it because it shows that like she really does want to stay. Like she really is tormented by what she did and what she has to do, and it's sad because Shallan should be a little scholar lady.
yeah. And so then I think Yasna tells her, hey, well, you need to go find this book. She goes, okay, I'll go find it. She's like, do you want help? It's like, no, I know exactly where it is. And she runs off and she ends up running into Capsule, and they talk about Yasna. So Capsule was like, why are you up here? She's like, well, I went to go get this book. He said, well, you're like 3 floors up and like on the opposite side of Costco, from where this book is. And she's like, oh, well, I got lost. And he's like, okay, whatever. So on their way back to Yasna, because she's been gone for like 2 hours, they start to have a conversation about Yasna and about history. And Capsule now admits that he believes Yasna wants to prove the Voidbringers are just a fabrication of the Radiance and they're not real. And so then Shallan tells Capsule she's leaving. And he's like, well, you never gave me a sketch of me. Can you do that? And that's when she uses a mirror and her blink to take a selfie and then uh, draws it and redoes it. adds the extra stuff, photo shopping, and he wants to pay her for it, but she won't let him. And then he asks for another. He says she'll draw him another one.
Let me
And
ask you this. And just we can
yeah,
just, why do you think he wants to pay her for it? That just seems like so rude. It's weird. Mm.
um, I maybe maybe his goal was to frame her for the murder, because like he he might know that she stole the Soulcaster already. So if if she stole the Soulcaster, he pays her. Now she has spheres that'll power the Soulcaster or something. Then there's more evidence, or it's like, okay, where'd you get the money from? You had no spheres left. Why are you possessing spheres?
Yeah, I don't know. It was an odd interaction because like he's been so kind of good at manipulating her with like through romantic things. So you think that like he would know that this would be like super rude to do. That it's like a weird faux pas. I don't really understand why he did it.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think twice about it. So she's when she sketches, she does again sketches a figure with sharp angular symbol hovering above his collar instead of his head. And then she falls back. So she ends up visiting a strange place.
Oh, I mean, yeah. She she run you go she's going a little ahead. She ends up running away and she's like she's doing the it follows thing where she's like going through the crowd and she like suddenly turns around and she's like drawing a thing and she's like drawing the crowd and she still sees the figures are following her. She's like freaking out, so she's like running away. She thinks she's going insane. She ends up going all the way into her room where she like kind of locks the door, and that's kind of where we pick up with your description. But yeah, it's really cool. Like really
That's
harrowing,
that's why
horrific.
I have other people on the podcast.
All right, I'm just kind of doing it. It's very
No,
horrific.
you're great. I
It's
did
very
forget about that for some reason.
yeah. It's a good bit of horror. It really plays up the Cthulhu esque Lovecraftian kind of horror of this section, which I think like reading this really makes me want Sanderson to write like a horror novel. I don't know if any of his secret projects are horror. Um, no,
Not yet.
that's it's sad because like he does it really well. And some of his Wheel of Time chapters that he wrote, like the one where
The city that
basically
Matt went
yeah,
to.
yeah, is the Purge city. It's like really good horror stuff. I think he has the chops for it, and I really wish he would do something. Um, just go all out and like do some like cosmic horror crazy bullshit. Um, yeah, it's really cool. And it's just very much reminded me of It Follows. If you've never seen that, it's basically there's like a thing that only this lady can see, and it follows her, and if it catches up to you, it kills you. And so like there's a really cool scene in it where like she's just like running away from it, and she just turns around. Everybody else is just walking normally, and there's just one person is stalking towards her really slowly. She just freaks out. It's a good movie if you've never seen it. If you like horror. But yeah, this section was really cool. It's probably one of my favorite chapters of the novel, just for the horror aspect. I really like when she gets to her room and she's like drawing it, and she's like drawing first person, so like you see her like her hands and shit, and she's like, "Oh my god, they're all around me!" And it's all creepy. And then
Yeah.
she gets the Shazemar.
Yeah, she falls into Shadesmar, which is like full of beads. Um, so the voice, the creatures, the sea of glass beads, and the dark, cold sky. And
Yeah,
so, which get
I was just saying it's a really cool place. It's so alien that it's hard to visualize where everything it's kind of reminding me of the Lego movie where they go to like the builder realm or whatever. You know what I'm talking
Mhm.
about? It kind of reminded me of that, where it's just like sea of Legos and like they kind of like piece together to build a double decker bed or whatever Punk Betty did. So maybe she's a master builder.
Maybe so.
Maybe
But
she's
yeah,
like Emmett.
it was fun when she went in there because she's like, okay, there's beads, there's figures, and then she hears the voices. And let's see, no, she came. That was when she came back. What did she come back from it when the goblet, or was the goblet supposedly talking to her inside?
Uh,
I think she
yeah.
was in Shadesmar, and the goblet was like, "Wait, you want me to turn into something? Okay, I can try." And then, like when she returns, she notices that the goblet has turned itself into blood. Um, and now she's like freaking out because there's a knock on the door when she comes back, and she's like, "Well, there's blood. She's gonna know I soul casted." And so she's like, "Wait, is that what soul casting is? Asking Spren to change into something, or objects to change into something?" Because she's like, "Wait, was that a goblet Spren that was talking to me? Like,
Yeah, it's
did it
very weird.
did it change itself into something because I asked it to?" It's like, is that what soul casting is? And if so, Yasna's gonna recognize that. Um, I'll break this glass pitcher and then cut my hand. And she didn't think about what it would look like when she cut her hand.
Didn't she slit her wrist?
Yes, she
Yeah.
slit her wrists. So in the next chapter,
Uh,
she's like, "Wait, I didn't think about that." Because she's on like suicide watch in the hospital.
yeah, I mean, it is only only the real way she could try to feign something, or else there's just like I came back, I ran away, and then suddenly there's a lot of blood. Don't pay attention to the missing vase. It was always gone, or the pitcher or whatever. It was not there. It just turned into lots of blood. Yes, I think it's cool. Also, note that the guy asks, "What are you?" And she says she's terrified. And it says, "This is true." And she suddenly is teleported into this world. So that might have something to do with how you get there. I don't know.
So he says, "What are you?" And she says, "Terrified."
Yep. What are you? What am I? She whispered. I'm terrified. This is true. The bedroom transformed around her. So it asked Mark. So maybe you get asked a strange question in the night. Lie if you unless you want to go into the glass bead world and maybe soulcast your nightstand into blood.
Yeah.
That would not be
So
fun.
in this chapter, we also find out that dawn singers are like the opposite of void bringers. They're like Spren that were sent to heal and comfort humans after the Radiance left,
Mm.
which is a cool little world tidbit.
And I wonder if they are real or not. I mean, we've seen that like giant whale spren in the interludes. So maybe that was a dawn singer.
Oh, the one that
The
Axes
axe,
the
axe.
Collector was, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe so.
I mean, that's the most alien looking sprint, and it also seems to like protect the city or whatever, and like draw. So it could maybe that's a Dawn Singer, Jesus,
Dawn Springer.
Dawn Springer's, Jerry Springer's sprint.
All right, we'll move on to chapter 48, Strawberry. Strawberry feels forever. All right, so and these next two chapters should go quick, and then we're gonna go to Kaladin's.
Yeah.
So Shallan is in the hospital in Carbranth. She's basically on suicide watch. Um, and I have a question here after I go through the summary.
Mhm.
So she's in the hospital. She surmises that she took um, light from the sphere and gave it to the spren of the goblet as a bribe to transform. Uh, she's visited by the king, who says he's asks her questions like, "Do you need anything?" She goes, "Well, I'm kind of lonely. Maybe I'd have some visitors." And he's like, "Oh yeah, sure. You're depressed, and um, I'll have some ardents sent in." Then Yasna comes to visit when Taravangian leaves. Yasna comes in, apologizes for her tutelage being harsh because she's like, okay, my tutelage brought you to try to commit suicide. And she gives Shallan a book of endless pages, which was from, I didn't write it down, but there was a specific devotary, and their beliefs were that there was always more to find. And so they carry these book of endless pages that will never fill up because there's always more. There's always another secret. Then Kabzul comes in to visit and shares bread with Yasna and Shallan, brings a strawberry jam, but it doesn't smell right. And then Kabzul and Shallan are poisoned, and Yasna uh, has to soul cast Shallan's blood to save her. So, a couple questions I have here with this information, this chapter. One,
And the most important thing is Shallan reveals that she took the soulcaster to Yasna because she's like, "Yeah, you have the fake soulcaster. Here you go."
here it's yeah, you have the fake one. Take this one. You're gonna need it to soul cast to save whoever. All right. So one, Yasna ate the bread. Why was she not poisoned?
I mean, I know why, but you'll find out.
Okay. All
I mean,
right.
do you actually not know?
I forgot.
Okay, you'll find
Well,
out later.
well, yes, we will find out later.
But it is a very important thing to think about, dear listeners, that she did eat the bread.
And then the drawing that she's doing in the hospital, is that their chapter icon?
I don't remember what drawing she was doing.
So this is the chapter icon for
Yeah,
hers, right?
yeah.
And if you look far, it actually looks like a person with a bead. And let's see, the description of the drawing she had here was that distant horizon, or so it was a picture of that strange place she had gone, that distant horizon with its powerful yet cold sun, clouds running toward it above, endless ocean below, making the sun look as if it were at the end of a long tunnel. Above the ocean hovered hundreds of flames, a sea of lights above the sea of glass beads.
Yeah. I wish the chapter icon was a little bit more clear, but I could definitely see that being it.
It definitely kind of looks like it, right?
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. It's very like low res, so
It kind of looks like a person too.
kind of yeah.
Like I could see a head at the top and fingers coming in.
Yeah, it's cool.
Maybe that's a gem heart that's in the middle, the sun.
Maybe. Yeah, good old
Yeah,
capsule dies.
Capsule dies.
We never need to see him again, Mr. Horny Priest.
Yeah,
Uh,
Mr. Horny Peas.
so he says the strawberries are from Shinovar. So I have a theory. I don't know if it's correct. I think Shinovar has like a portal or something, or maybe the founder of Shinovar is from a different planet. I think they're from like Earth or some other place because they have like chickens. They have like all of our stuff, like chickens and strawberries and stuff like that. So I think that they're from a different Cosmere planet. And they either have like a portal to it, and that's where like the truth is and stuff like that. They can go to like a different planet or something like that. And you're truthless because you have to like leave. You can't go back to like your home planet or whatever. Just if this is a Cosmere and has like things like that. Like I don't think it's like I don't remember Mistborn if they have like well I haven't read Bear 2, which would have like chickens and shit because they have a I don't want to spoil Mistborn. So I don't know if it's and I don't really remember uh Elantris or any of that. But that's my guess is Shinovar is either from a different planet or has like a portal to a different planet. That's how they're getting these like things that are so obviously alien to this world.
It's
So,
possible.
yeah. That I'm calling it now.
All right, you can call it now, and I don't know. Like I genuinely don't know because I don't remember much from the later books either. So
Yeah. It's just weird that they have all like our stuff. And it's the only place that has it. So
maybe so. But yeah, it does say that their land is they can grow like it's the only country with like real grass and like all the crops that they can grow like that.
yeah. So maybe it's like the high storm, like the origin was not always like that, and it when it arrived, it killed everything else, and like everything else had to evolve, and Shin, since it's so far away, is able to be sheltered.
Yeah, I mean
Kind
that when I read it, that's kind of excuse me, kind of how I felt because like Shinovar's at the tail end of the high storm, like
mm,
going across the land.
mm,
So like us being from Louisiana, we get hit by hurricanes a lot. But the further north inland you go, the hurricane's dying and dying and dying. And by the time it gets up to the northeast, it's just a rainstorm. So
yeah,
not
I
as
mean
destructive.
that makes sense. But also, if you're gonna have like Cosmere and it's gonna be like a connected world, I think it would be cooler if it's like a portal to a different planet or something. But could just be simple as that, where it's just like, yeah, we were sheltered from the high storm. It's basically Nausicaa, the Valley of the Winds over here. Um, we're just chilling.
Yeah.
But I'm calling it now. That's my theory. If I'm
Okay.
writing book 4 or 5, I'll take credit for it.
All right. You can take credit for it. That's fine. I like that idea. Chapter 50, backbreaker powder. Finish up Shalon here. All right, she's back in the hospital, but this time it's not on suicide watch. She wakes up when or Yasna visits her when she wakes up, and um, she finds out that Capsule had poisoned the bread, and Shalon like verbally admits at this point that it was her self, so that she was stealing the Fabrial for. Like she's like, I didn't steal it for Capsule, I stole it for myself. Um, and at the end of this chapter, Yasna leaves the room and leaves Shalon to be all by herself again. So Shalon's becoming depressed, which is a theme that's going across like a lot of people. Like Kaladin's depressed, Dalinar's depressed, Shalon's depressed.
A lot of depressed people in this book. I will say that
Seth is depressed too.
Seth is the most depressed. I will say this Capsule, he never watched The Princess Bride. He should take a little bit of backbreaker powder every day and build up an immunity to it. then he would just been chill. Um, but he didn't do that. He
Yeah.
was not he was not as cool as the Man in Black. Just, so yeah, so I guess
So
Shalon's storyline's done. She's just gonna go home and be handed, or her house is dead. Goodbye, Shalon.
she might just actually commit suicide now.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know
I
why. I don't know why we are so invested in this character. Her storyline's over.
yeah, and so look, man, I really feel like Capsule's assassination attempt is just to me it's so sudden.
I think it's supposed to feel like that, though,
True. True.
because it makes sense in hindsight, especially when you figure out like who he is. That he's a
Who he
member of
is.
the secret society and all that stuff. Like he's not actually. Well, I guess he's probably actually a. I don't think he is a ardent, because like no
I
other
kind
ardents
of
actually.
I kind of got the feeling that he's not really one in this section
I think they say
because
like that. Like they looked up and see like who he was, and like they had no record of him. So he was like basically like a Agent 47 assassin that was infiltrated to the Ardentia to like
yeah, he was
kill.
never sent by anybody and he just always showed up and was never accompanied by any other ardents or anything.
Yeah,
So
it was cool. I do think his his assassination plan is a little weird. Like you said, just like hoping one day Hasna would just eat the bread. Um, I guess if like I don't know, if you're assassin, you would like learn about your character, but like your target, but because like most people would just eventually just nibble on some bread instead of just being like I guess on guard the entire time of like maybe I'm gonna get poisoned and like freak out. It just seems like there'd probably be an easier way to kill her. And like I said, I don't think every bread was poison in every jam, because that would be a lot of you'd have to have a lot of backbreaker poison or a good supplier, because he's been doing this for what she's been Shalon's been there for a couple of months, and they
yeah,
they
and
meet they meet
also
a lot. So
I'll say like I think Capsule purposely went and visited Shalon when Yasna wasn't around a lot, even though he said, "Oh, I was hoping to see Yasna," but it was like part of his plan. And again, I have forgot a lot of stuff, so if it seems like I'm spoiling something, I'm really not because I forgot. Like
yeah.
I was just basing it off of this chapter right here
Mm.
in this section. It it felt like he purposely went to build a connection with Shalon so that, whatever for his plan to be more successful and to make it seem like she did it.
Yeah, I could
It
see
was
that.
it
I
was
mean,
it was her, not him.
yeah, I think it's pretty obvious he couldn't get to Yasna through just talking to her. Like she was never gonna eat anything that he brought her. So I'm surprised he never like left food with her. So like and be like, oh, please have brightness, Yasna, try some of this bread, and have like Shalon try to like coerce Yasna with him not there, instead of just eating into. I guess he didn't want her to like nibble on some bread while he was away and just like die.
Yeah.
And you have Yasna goes in bad dates.
Yeah.
Like the poor monkey from Indiana Jones. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I wonder if he could just, it was easier for him to just like shank her. Probably would have been.
Maybe.
Yeah. But maybe he knew that she had like powers to turn people into smoke, so he couldn't just do that.
Yeah, she would probably soul cast him into something if she saw him coming. And we
Yeah,
also know that alert Fabrials are a thing as well, so maybe she has some danger alert ones. So
true. But yeah, I like I said, I like this section for Shalon. If we want to just recap it, it really moves her story forward. It makes her way more interesting, and it's kind of why I really like her. And I'm really looking forward to more parts of her in this book and the next couple books, because like the first like two parts, she's just kind of like a rich girl and then stranger in a strange land, rich girl, and you're just kind of learning about Cabranth and Yasna and stuff. And it's like she's kind of not that interesting. Then like this one, you're just like, oh shit, she like has Cthulhu monsters chasing after her, and she has a shard blade, which I guess we forgot to talk about a little bit. Yeah, she it's like when she's surrounded by the creatures, she's like, 10 I start the process of 10 heartbeats, which we know is shard blade. So how the hell does she get a shard blade? And like, what is she? She seems to at once be like a crazy thief, but also like very naive and has a shard blade, and her father's really fucked up, and we don't know about her mother, and her brothers are fucked. So she's way interesting, has a lot of different secrets and like all this thing that sprout up in this section, where
right.
the other sections she's just kind of boring, and you're like, all right, let's get back to Kaladin and like Dalinar and stuff like that. So it's very needed.
Yeah. Thank you for summing that up. That was great.
Yeah, it's fun.
All right. So now we're going to move on to Kaladin's point of view, chapter 30, Darkness Unseen. So now we do get a POV from Gaz, right?
Yeah,
In this one. Does it
that was a
start off
little
with
weird.
him?
It's a little bit. Uh, there's like a couple of Kaladin paragraphs before you get to Gaz.
Okay. Yeah. So at this point, we're in the lumber yard. Kaladin has been on 24 bridge runs at this point, he states. And he notes this because there's a rumor in the world that if you go on 100 bridge runs, you're free. And so most people don't make it a whole lot of bridge runs, and Kaladin's been on 24 of them now.
Mm.
So he has now earned the obedience of all of Bridge 4. So they obey them. And we get a Gaz point of view where he's meeting with Lamoral, who he owes Lamoral money and says that Sadius won't approve of organized bridge crews and wants Gaz to make sure that Cal dies on the field. And so then Syl and Kaladin are talking, and they're like, we don't trust Lamoral. Cal then visits the carpenters, wonders if the bridge itself could be used as a shield, because he's wondering, why don't we get armor and shield? He then makes Rock, Teft, Scar, and Moash sub-squad commanders. So he's treating it like a military. Moash, it's important to know that Moash doesn't trust Kaladin, but Kaladin likes him because he's not easily strayed. He's not convinced easily. So it's like, if you have to pay somebody money to follow you, there's probably a chance that if somebody else pays them money, they're going to betray you. And so he kind of gets that feeling with Moash. It's like, all right, it took a lot to it took him a hell of a lot to convince him to follow me, but he did. So I think it's going to take way more for him to decide not to.
Yeah.
Then Kaladin convinces Gaz, wonders what the hell Kaladin's doing with carrying the bridge differently. He says, well, it convinces him that the side carry is to work different muscles. And so Gaz then sees it as a way to get Kaladin killed. He's like, oh, this is going to slow him down. This is going to get them killed. I'll let him do that. And then he's going to be dead, and we won't have to worry about him. And Sadius will be happy, and Lamoral will be happy.
Yep, that's the chapter. Introduces the side carry. It's really interesting that Gaz gets a POV um, in this chapter because Brandon's pretty sparing in his POVs. Um, so I don't remember at all. I'm just curious if Gaz becomes a more important character in later books or anything like that. Because it's just weird that he has a because it's like not super important. His like his POV for like the story. It's just like him. He's like owes some money to Lamrel for some reason, and he's like worried about paying it off and things like that. And he has his, he's lost an eye, so it has like that sort of thing. So I don't know. It's just one thing that kind of stood out in this chapter.
Here's the take. I just thought about it because you brought it up as a question. So, um, later on, Kaladin and all the bridge crew, they're talking about the light eyes. If I was a light eyes, and I you know, wouldn't treat dark eyes this way, et cetera, et cetera. And it's stated that if dark eyes were in charge, somebody else would still be the subservience and be
Discriminate against, basically.
yeah, there you go, discriminated against. It would just be different. Like the dark eyes would be different. And it's funny when Rock talks about it, because he's like, well, you could be light eyes without having light eyes. It just means something different. But Gaz being who he is, he's not a slave, he's not a bridgeman. um but the bridgemen see him as somebody they have to be obedient to, and that he discriminates against them. And so the POV with Gaz kind of shows that, all right, he also is in a bad position. Like he's not great. He's not doing great. And he has to worry about being discriminated against by um other high dark eyes
Mm.
and the light eyes.
Yeah, because is Gaz a white eye? I don't remember.
I think Gaz is dark
I
eye.
think he's a dark eye as well. I don't think we get his non.
No. Yeah, so I think he is missing one eye, by the way.
Yeah. Uh,
So, but yeah, yeah. So he might. I think he's a dark eye.
I think he is too. Especially the way Lamrel kind of treats him. Seems like it'd be a dark eye thing to do. Oh, yeah, Gaz, he's interesting. He's not the most important character. He's kind of very much a side character. I'm just curious if he's gonna, you know, have a more expanded role. Maybe join Bridge for a different book or something. Um, or maybe at the end of this book, I don't know. Yeah, that's kind
Yeah,
of
it just gave me that kind of, I don't know if he becomes super important later
yeah. He
on.
also like he says like, "Is there a sprint in the darkness?" And we just saw through Shallan stuff that she has sprint, so maybe there's something to him that he's setting up for later books. Maybe there'll be an interlude with Gaz. If they're gonna be an interlude with random thief lady, there could be an interlude with Gaz. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's something I'm gonna keep an eye on in the coming books to see if he becomes important or not.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's the important thing here is it introduces the side carry, and that um Bridge 4 is definitely obedient to Kaladin. So we move on to chapter 31. That's a backstory POV. It is 6 years earlier in Hearthstone, and we've got Kaladin and Liren Lirin is drunk. The townsfolk have stopped donating to him. They're being bullied by Roshone to do so. Roshone wants Lirin to spin the spheres from Wistio on food and other things and not Kaladin's education. Kaladin is not of age yet to be sent off to Kharbranth, so they got to wait till he's of age, and then we're going to use the spheres from Wistio to pay for Kaladin's education. Roshone is trying to get Kaladin's father to spend it.
Or to give it to him, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, by spending it.
By spending it so that he doesn't have it. Then at the end, the villagers show up in black masks, threatening Lirin. Lirin grabs the goblet of spheres and takes the cloth off the top of it, which then shines light on everybody. And they slink off after he challenges them to do what they threatened. And so, like, once the light came off, like, Kaladin started recognizing different townsfolk. It kind of reminds me of that scene in Shrek where they show up in the swamp.
Yeah, I could see that. I vaguely remember Shrek. I just remember All Star.
So a couple things with the title chapter, the chapter title. The obvious reference is Laurel's statement about seeing underneath the skin being unnatural. But it could also refer to Roshone trying to get under Lirin's skin, or even seeing the townsfolk underneath their masks. So, like, beneath. So there's kind of some things I thought of.
Yeah, like it's somewhat of a just kind of character building chapters, not super important. One thing I will say, it does show that Kaladin wasn't always able to drink Stormlight because those are still really bright and they've been there for a while. So we don't know exactly when he got this ability, but I'm guessing he doesn't have it now because he just lifts it off and they're all done. He's like, "What the hell happened?" Which would have been funny. So yeah, there's that. Kind of shows that Kaladin gets more respect for his father. That's kind of like the big thing. That he thought his father was a coward, but it turns out he's got some backbone. Yeah, kind of my thoughts on this chapter.
We do find there's a description of white spines in this chapter, which are very terrifying. They are reptilian creatures as big as horses, but with carapace across their backs. And yeah, we see those later too. They're very dangerous, but people try to go hunt the white spines.
Yeah.
So
I wonder what will go wrong.
I don't know, but we can move on to chapter 32, side carry. This is in the lumber yard, and then it starts off in the lumber yard, ends up at the tower, which is that largest plateau on the eastern side of the Shattered Plains. So it starts off, Gaz is bringing new recruits. It doesn't assign any to Bridge 4. And then Cal comes up and asks to pick one. And he picks a one-armed Herdazian named Lopin, where he calls himself the Lopin because everybody was like, well, where did that name come from? He's like, I don't know. I never heard anybody named Lopin before. I guess I'm the Lopin.
Yeah, and I'll just say this because I've been listening to the audiobook. Lupin is like Australian, and it's really funny. It's like, "Hey, Goncho, what's up?" It's very much like Crocodile Dundee, and it's really funny. Rock kind of like talks like this. I am Rock. Like that's the voice they give in the audiobook, which is not my favorite choice. But yeah, Lupin's really funny, especially in the audiobook because he's just very Australian.
I think the Horn Eaters, I think he drew an inspiration from like Pacific Islanders. I know Brandon Sanderson loves like Pacific Islander culture. Just some of the names and stuff just remind me of like a Hawaiian or Samoan type thing. And so back to the chapter, the training has increased everybody's stamina for bridge runs. So everybody is doing the shoulder carry of beams in the lumber yard and returning it
Pumping
to the
that iron.
carpenter at the end of it. You bench press, do some deadlifts, some shoulder carries. They'd be yoked like some ox.
I just think of all the Bridge 4 people like 300.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
They're just yoked like shit.
And so and a new assault on the tower starts, and Kaladin uses the side carry. And even though it's slower, he ends up being the first bridge to make it to the chasm to cross. And nobody in Bridge 4 fell. Unfortunately, like a couple of bridges lost everybody. Some bridges lost a whole lot or lost a lot of people, but not everybody. Um, some to the point where they couldn't carry the bridge anymore, so it was ineffective of carrying it. And so the tactic cost Sadius the assault. They weren't able to get enough of the army across to really do a battle. And Kaladin convinces, at the end, Kaladin convinces Lamoral to leave him alive and that he will vouch for Lamoral's ignorance and that on the running the side carry. It's like, hey, look, he didn't know. It was totally uh, my idea. And so Lamoral has Kaladin beaten.
Yeah. So like, yes, he and Bridge 4, since they're yoked 300 people, they're able to run out in front even, and then they're able to do the side carry, and then basically they're all out in front. So all the other bridge crews see this and they're like, oh shit, we could do that to stop the arrow. So they try to do it, but they didn't practice at all. So they're like basically fucking it up. So then they're just getting pelted by the arrows, exposed because they're not holding on top of them, so they're even more exposed than normal. So there's just like it's just a massacre. And so there's some beachheads that are able to be done but there's not enough because you need a critical amount to like able to have cavalry charges and stuff like that. So yeah, it's just a whole big screw up that Kaladin caused, and he was so narrow focused. He even says that he was so narrow focused on his own Bridge 4 that he didn't even think to think of the larger battle strategy and tactics that he would have if he's not, a slave and is, that. So he cost Sadius the battle and a lot of people their lives, but Bridge 4 lives, so that's good.
Yeah. Did a lot of the army lost their lives too, right?
Yeah, it was a pretty big defeat from what it seems like. I don't think we get numbers because I don't think we ever really get numbers except towards the end of the novel of how many people have died.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kaladin's beaten at the end of the chapter. Brings us to the next one, which is
I will say,
go ahead.
last thing on this book or this chapter, I really like the introduction of Lupin. I just think of Lupin the Third for some reason. Lopan, he's a good, like we said, with everybody being depressed, him and like Rock and them are really good, like levity bringers, especially in the audiobook when he's like, "Hey, Goncho," it's just really funny every time he talks with just the Australian accent.
Yeah, and so the Lopin actually it doesn't carry the bridge. He's a water carrier along with I think what Haber at this point.
He takes the one that's mute from battle fatigue, and then like a couple of the other wounded that are able to like walk but not run. So they get like a giant litter of water skins which You think if Sadius was actually cared about people, he would already have that, but just goes to show that Sadius, he's not a good guy.
Mm,
We already knew that, but we still know that.
yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
And now, chapter 34, Stormwall. This is the Kaladin is Jesus chapter. So the aftermath of the war, Kaladin is beaten.
Yeah, it's
He's
50. We can do 34 and 35 because they're the same thing. I don't know why it's a different chapter.
yeah, I think he just wanted the chapter titles.
Yeah, because it's literally like right after the chapter ends. It's just basically a page break. So yeah, 34 and 35.
Okay. So yeah, Kaladin was after he was beaten, he was hung upside down outside the barracks. Sadeas had Lamoral executed. Um, Syl is feeling depressed. She says she feels cold. She doesn't understand what's happening with her. There's changes with her. Then so Kaladin is hung upside down, but he's on the Stormward side of the barracks, and he's being strung up to face the high storm outside by himself. And then, so while he's being hung up, Teft, Rock, and Moash come out to see him and tell him goodbye. Teft gives him a done sky mark. Autocorrect changed that to fun. I was like, what the hell? A done sky mark. Kaladin tells him that to tell Bridgman to come out after the high storm and look at him, and he will open his eyes after. Then events of chapter 35 are right after or during the high storm. So Kaladin is just getting tossed around during the high storm. He sees Syl acting like she's protecting him from something. Um, and then Kaladin sees a face in the storm, and his sphere is then filled with light. And after the storm is past, Rock is the first one to come out, then Teft, and then the others to see Kaladin. He does open his eyes at the end. He's alive, and the sphere is dun dun dun. Oh, sorry, we already did that joke.
Yeah, we can do it all the time. It's a good joke.
Yeah, so Kaladin survives a high storm.
And meets God.
Yes, basically meets God. I really loved I really loved the imagery of Syl
Yeah,
fighting off the high storm.
yeah. She's using her wind sprint abilities to fight off the high storm.
And like later on, she's using like a sword.
Yeah, she's like fighting the death sprint and she's like killing them. I don't know. I need that in animated form or something.
Dude, it's so awesome. I
I
love I
really
love Syl.
it still is awesome. I really want this. I don't think it would work in live action unless it had like $1 billion budget. I think it would be like an amazing anime. It's already basically an anime with the giant swords and the mech plates and stuff. But if you got like the right studio to do this, like you could do it could be so cool. Like you got like the Jujutsu Kaisen studio or anything else like that, like top anime uh company, it would be like the coolest thing.
Yeah, I know, I agree.
So Brandon, get on that. Stop doing live action, do anime.
Or what if it was partially live action, partially anime?
I mean, do what you will. That would be you want like rotoscoped like Wizards. Have you ever seen Wizards, the 1970 movie?
Maybe.
All right, well,
I forgot.
it's like or the more I guess well known would be the Lord of the Rings animation from the 70s,
Oh yeah, okay.
where it's like live action people, but it's like drawn kind of. It's weird.
Okay.
Hey, Wizards is good if you never, and none of you have watched it. But yeah, this chapter is cool. I like seeing the Stormfather. I'm guessing it's the Stormfather. Um, I get to see like how the spheres are like infused with like he just kind of like passes by, like it's fucking like Passover or something, and just like infuses everything. Um, and yeah, Kaladin. I also like Kaladin's like, yeah, if I die, like they'll be like, oh well. But if I live, they'll remember it forever.
Yeah.
So
But
I might as well do it. There's no reason not to.
which is funny though, because when he does come back alive, he's like, I fucked them up. Like, I don't want to live anymore. There's no purpose. I'm like, dude, what did you just forget what happened? What you told yourself right before?
Yeah. Oh, and also Teft holds up a spear and Kaladin breathes it in. So guess what? We- Now people know a thing we've known all book. Kaladin has magic.
Was it here or was I think that
It,
was in
it is in
38.
it's in
Maybe that's in
35.
Visitors.
It's in 35.
Because no, he gave him before
Oh,
the
okay.
storm, he
He
gave
looks at the Dun sphere and he's like,
yeah, he goes, huh. And then later on in chapter 38
yeah,
is when he's like, I wonder. And so he puts three glowing
that's
spheres
right.
in his hand and he drains them and he goes, oh, okay, well, I'll use this. Which is funny because Cal doesn't even know how the hell he's healing so quickly. He doesn't,
Yeah,
but
I
Tef
do. I
knows.
do wish he. It's one of the things I am a little tired in this book. Is Kaladin's kind of an idiot. He's like, man, these things get done, and like I have superpowers and I live a long time, and just happens to have arrows just all around me, just like never hitting me, and I have this magic fairy that talks to me, but I don't have magic. I'm like cursed. I'm like, come on, dude, just put two and two together. It's fine. It's fine for a little. I think it drags on a little too long. Also,
Yeah.
spoiler: Tef doesn't like talk to him um, about being magical for a long time, and it's really annoying too.
Yeah.
But yeah, this chapter is great. I really like it. Even in yeah, just I like still like I like seeing the Stormfather. You know, Kaladin getting some forward momentum on his storyline with becoming a Surge Binder.
Yeah. So we can move on to sides
Yeah.
because there's really not much to talk about unless you want to go through descriptions of being tossed around and
No,
in the
it's just really
store.
it's really cool. Yeah, it's just really cool.
All right, so chapter 37 sides is another flashback. This time 5.5 years ago. And we're in Hearthstone. And Kaladin's brother Tien is playing with rocks. And his mother says there are Spren in everything, which we've kind of seen already. But it's just like a character in the world confirming that that's like, okay, yeah, everything has a Spren associated with it. Kaladin has decided that he's going to be a soldier and not a surgeon like his parents want him to be, following after his father. He runs out of the house. So he figures out that his mother is keeping him distracted. Like his father isn't around. So he goes, oh, my dad's up to something. So he runs out of the house, catches up to his dad, and then decides to join him. He's like, hey, look, I know you're going to Roshon's house. I'm going to join you. And I know you're going to confront him. So during the dinner, uh, Liren says something, and Cal's like, he's about to, bargain with him on something. And Liren sends him to the kitchen to eat a kid's meal, and so that he can talk with Roshon alone without Kaladin interrupting and screwing things up. While in the kitchen, Kaladin's angry, and Rashon's son, Relir, walks in with Laurel, and they are pretty much betrothed at this point. And Relir tries to make Kaladin fetch him his own food. He refuses to do so, says it's not his calling. Um, asks Relir, why don't you go get it? He goes, that's not my calling. And then Relir leaves the kitchen. Kaladin's angry, refuses to eat, and then Lirin walks in, says he left Rashon and was pretending to be angry, and then Kaladin realizes, oh, he's leading him on. He's making him feel like he's giving in and all this stuff. So,
And one of the more important things is we find out that Lirin did in fact steal the money. And Kaladin is shocked by that, and then he it's kind of more moral quandering, kind of like with Shallan, where like, can you do a bad thing to do a good thing? Because like he promised the jewels or the money, but wasn't able to actually secure it. So it's actually better for them to get it and make another surgeon than this like pompous asshole noble to just get the money just because. Yeah, and he decides to become a surgeon because he basically got in an argument with the son and kind of couldn't really, like, he had no comebacks with him, and he just kind of got flustered and he got embarrassed. Also, yeah, so that's kind of the thing. It's fun.
Yeah, and you touched on the biggest two takeaways I had from this chapter. Yeah, the biggest one, I mean, they're both big, that Lirin did in fact steal the spheres, and then the other one being that Kaladin on his own decided that he was going to be a surgeon instead of a soldier.
Yeah, the one weird thing is I don't know why Rashon thinks he's entitled to the spheres, because it would be the daughter and their family's money, not his money. I guess if he thinks like the son marries the daughter, but like I don't know if like we see his wife is still alive, if like their family is still. It just seems weird that like he's like, oh yeah, it's my money, even though it would be the daughter's money and her family's money.
Yeah, either that or the money belongs to the office, the station. It's like a like in the treasury. It's the money in the treasury.
And that's weird that he would be able to will it out, like the state's money to people. I don't know. It was a one weird thing I kind of caught. Was thinking about like why I mean, I get why he wants it because it's a lot of money. He's like, he's kind of an outcast from, inner society of like Althkar and stuff, and so he could maybe use that to like bribe people to get back to like the capital and all that stuff. But I don't know why everybody just thinks like, oh yeah, like if you just give it to him, like why he deserves it. And
Yeah,
it wouldn't be Laurel or whatever, Laurel's money or her.
Yeah,
it's
a weird thing. Yeah, and where's Laurel's mom?
Yeah, and where is she like living? I don't know. It's weird. Like she's obviously betrothed with them and things like that, and they didn't seem to be super rich. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Another thing that's mentioned is that people in positions that serve an essential function are given protections even from light eyes. So like Relir couldn't do anything to Kaladin because he's essentially apprenticed to his dad as a surgeon.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he wants to be called by Kaladin, his real full name, because he's been called Cal this entire flashback, which it's a fun little thing. Growing into a man.
Yep, good old Kaladin the man. So we can move back to present day. Um, Investiger. And this is where Teft visits um, Kaladin. But prior to that, Kaladin is like basically slipping in and out of consciousness. Um, and I think later on, it mentioned that he was remembering himself as a kid, as an apprentice, uh, administering aid to people. But it seemed like to me, it was him going, "Oh, I feel this way. All right, this is the proper way to handle that."
Yeah, he's
Um,
like diagnosing himself, is what I
yeah,
got.
that's what I got. Later on, he did mention like he was. Um, I feel like it was mentioned later on that he was remembering from this past, but I'm gonna go with he's diagnosing himself through his in and out of consciousness of what happened and his injuries. He sees Death Spren and then sees Syl wielding a blade of light and fighting them and protecting them off. And uh, Teft thinks about something called the Invisagers, but he doesn't go into details.
Mm.
But I think it has to do with the ability to draw stormlight and do something with stormlight from spheres.
I got it more because he was part of them, right? I thought it was more like a secret society or like a knowledge pool of like people learning about like the radiance and things like that. And
Okay,
then then
sounds good to me.
Tef somehow got them killed, which is interesting. I wonder where that what if we're gonna learn about his past. Because yeah, he says, I need to tell the Invisitors. He thought I need to. The Invisitors were gone, dead because of what he had done. If there was others, he had no idea how to locate them. So I kind of see them as the kind of like Sazed and Mistborn, like people that somehow has knowledge that they're passing down, and probably like I'm guessing the Radiance because he knows about all the surge binding BS.
Okay, uh, okay, I'll agree.
He even says Kelek preserve us. So I guess that's a herald, right? So
Yeah, Kellek is a
yes,
herald. That's
yes,
said often in the.
yeah, that's true. But yeah, I don't know. He was an visitor. Like it seems weird. Like his Bridge Four has a lot of people well, like Sigil is something we'll learn later, and yeah, Taft, who's like an Invisitor or was or knew about him. You have like the Hornators. So you have a lot of cool people in Bridge Four. But yeah, that's kind of all I got from this chapter.
Yep. So we'll move on to Eyes of Red and Blue. And this is Kaladin's POV. And they're in the lumber yard. Um, Mostly Kaladin is getting depressed again through this chapter. So he wakes up, walks outside, finds out he's been down for 10 days. Everybody is very surprised that he's up because it's been only 10 days. Um, the horns sound, and it's three horns. So Kaladin is like, "Oh shit, it's a bridge run. I'm gonna go on it." And everybody's like, "No, you're gonna be too weak. Then you're gonna die. Why don't you just be a water carrier with them?" The bridge run ended up not being a bad bridge run, but the skirmish was bloody. And Kaladin is watching from the other plateau. Um, I quoted something. Each arrow that strikes down a bridgeman. Oh, this is the reason why Sadius uses doesn't protect the bridgeman. Each arrow that strikes down a bridgeman is one that doesn't hit a soldier you've spent a great deal of money outfitting and training. That's why it's better for Sadius to field a large number of bridgemen rather than a smaller but protected number, which makes sense as sinister as it is.
Yeah, calculus of war makes sense.
Yeah. Then Syl returns from being gone wherever the hell she went. Maps is a Bridge 4 crew member. It gives a speech and then gives a gift to Rock from the crew for cooking. And it's a straight razor, a stone, a leather strop, and beard soap, so that he can
Is it Mudcap? Beard?
mudcat whiskers. Yes,
Yeah.
he gifts them Mudcat Whiskers, the official sponsor of Bridge 4. That's not an official statement. Then Kaladin and Sigil talk about whatever. Sigil is talking about like Merovingian, um, saying it's like you have eyes of red and blue. They say red for the dripping blood, blue for the water. Which that's the name of the chapter.
Yeah, it's because in that city they criminals they're hung out over like the water and for like great shells come and feast. But then there's says kind of like the bridge people. If the bridge, if you run 100, it's like if you last a week or something, you'll be let free. So it's basically like a metaphor of like you have to give people hope. Like there's a reason why they're all just not just killing themselves, because they have this hope of like living. And as long as you have like that hope, you won't give up. So like the bridge people are supposed to die and like draw fire through so that the troops will live, but they're able to keep running the bridges because they have that hope, even though it's kind of, even though they say it's hopeless, it's actually hopeless because they all get eaten in like a day, he says. But the criminals still do it because they have that hope of living.
Right, so they get strung up and out over the water, right?
Yeah,
And
where the crabs will come and eat them.
yeah, so
But if they live for a certain amount of days, they will be let free, kind of like the bridge.
most of the time they're not.
Like it says, like
they die. Like
yeah, they say like every time they die, but they still take the choice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot that. Thank you. Then at the end of the chapter, Rock shares his razor with everybody. So yeah, while Kaladin's standing and watching the skirmish, he starts to think about the bigger picture and like, okay, how can I keep us alive and not throw off the tactics? And like also why do the Pershindi fight? Like, why are they fighting? I know why we're fighting, but why are they fighting?
Yeah. Yeah, it basically comes to the realization that nothing they can do is gonna keep them alive, basically. They're supposed to die. So like he was like, oh, if I innovated more like side carry thing to help us, maybe that will, but he was still thinking like Sadius and them thought them as like assets where they're basically just expendable. So then he comes up with like the plan of like escape, basically.
Yeah. There's nothing to do but escape now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt with his depression here. So at the end, he says, "Oh, he's talking about the weight of everything." And he says, "Oh, Stormfather," he thought, feeling the crushing weight of despair as he stared down at his bowl. "I'm falling back to the wretch I was. I'm losing my grip on this, on myself." He couldn't carry the hopes of all the bridgemen. He just wasn't strong enough. And there's a few chapters later, is titled "The Wretch," and it's just as you know, as a father and a husband, for me, kind of, you know, just 2020 was hard on everybody, and just kind of like unsureness. I mean, even now there's still unsureness and whatever chaos is going to happen, um, with the world and American politics, which we won't go into details, but it's just like everybody kind of feels a dread and a weight. Um, and I feel as a man for myself, there's a weight for me, but when I think about, okay, well, it's not just me going through this life. I've got my wife and my daughter, and how do I keep it off of them? How do I keep them from being depressed and give them a life? So it's very relatable to
Yeah.
me here. So
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. Calvin is a little sad boy. Maybe one day he won't be, but not today.
not today. Chapter 41
Yes.
of Alds and Milk. Weird names. Those are names. It's 5.5 years ago. Roshon and Relir are injured. They went on a white spine hunt. They tried to hunt a white spine, and they met a similar fate as Robert Baratheon. Relir met the fate of Robert Baratheon.
Mm.
Spoiler alert, sorry. uh Kaladin realizes that Lirin could have totally, and the image of this in my head right now, like when I was reading it, just that femoral artery and
Yeah.
the white spine thing going through, and how his dad was removing it, and he could have just like sliced it at any time and just killed Rashon. Um, great fucking imagery, great description. Kudos to you, Sanderson. Um, but Kaladin was watching that and realized that he could have um, just killed Rashon at any time. Um, and
And yeah, and Calvin realizes that he would have. So he's different from his father. He realizes that he can kill.
yes, yeah. And then the name Alds and Milp or whatever it's in the chapter title, they are two dark eyes that were injured and left by Rashon because he only cared about his son. Um, and I think the significance of that is Kaladin was he's like he realized that the light eyes don't care about the dark eyes. And it's like they only care about them and their own. Um, and so it was because I think Lirin. The lesson here was that Lirin left Rashon alive because he's different from Light Eye. He views himself differently from Light Eyes. Like, I'm leaving you alive because you wouldn't do the same for a dark eye.
Yeah. Yeah. And importantly in this chapter, the son, Rylor or whatever, he dies, and Lirin saves the father, and he's like, "Yeah, I would have saved the son, but he was too far gone, basically." So I can save you. The other guy, he's dead. I have a question. What do you think they use to hunt white spies? Because they sound terrifying. Like they're like horse-sized reptiles with like armored carapaces. Like they don't have shard blades. Like it would have to be like giant hammers or something. Like it sounds like an insane prospect.
Yeah, I don't know. Um,
Because it's not like a boar, right? Yeah, you can like spear it and you can like shoot it with some arrows. It's still very dangerous, but it's not like a fucking T-Rex or like a dinosaur that you're fighting. Um, so I don't. I was trying to think like, what do they actually use to kill these things?
I don't know. They, I wish they would have told us,
Yeah,
but
I wish too, because like they only
they're the
took like
size of horses.
it only took like four people. Early, well, we know that two of the dark guys died, and then these two guys got injured, so there must have been more to carry them back, things like that. But like, I was just trying to think, like, what exactly do you use to kill these things? Because it wouldn't be a spear. Like that would do like nothing.
I wouldn't imagine it was a
Yeah.
spear.
Yeah.
But oh, I was gonna say, so dark eyes can't use spears, but they are light eyes. So they have some
Well,
side
I mean,
type of sword.
a sword wouldn't do anything either to like a shell. Or it would like D&D logic, you would need like some sort of giant hammer, but then that would be really
Maybe the
slow.
underbelly. So
Yeah.
like if you think of like armored horses back in the day and how mastiffs were bred to run under horses with something on their back and slice the underbelly of the horses for to take care of the cavalry and whatnot.
Mhm.
Maybe something like that. Maybe they have a soft underbelly.
Yeah, maybe they have like axe hounds go in and like do that. That'd be cool. Um, yeah, that was my one thing because they sound so terrifying, and they are terrifying because they mess these people up.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's a cool chapter. Uh, gonna have consequences later. Um,
Yep.
yeah, maybe I hope we see more white spines. They seem cool. Seem like a cool like if we ever have like like a travel chapter like a where we could have like a combat encounter without like Parshendi or something like that. That'd be a cool um like cool chapter to have a fight with them.
Yeah.
See
See
Kaladin
that?
like with his spear like messing him up, trying to find the weak points of this like giant reptilian thing.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
Chapter 43, The Wretch. We're back to the barracks and then to the chasm. So we start off at the barracks, and Kaladin continues to feel depressed. Um, then Lameral's replacement shows up, which is Brightness Mattel and his wife Hashel. And his wife does all the talking. Uh, and so Bridge 4 is now, he decides that all the bridges are going to have permanent duties. They're not going to rotate duties anymore. Bridge 4 gets permanent chasm duty. Syl and Rock are trying to brighten up Kaladin. And it's not working. Uh, then Teft brings up Journey Before Destination. And then Sigil, however you say his name, chimes in with Life Before Death, Strength Before Weakness, Journey Before Destination. And then you get Scar and Moash all joining in with the Talk of the Knights Radiant. And Cal then goes off into the darkness, and they're all down in the chasm, and talks with Syl, then returns and tells Bridge 4 he will train them in the spear so that they can escape. So like Kaladin was just thinking of like running off and fighting away, and then comes back and says, "All right, I'm gonna teach y'all how to use the spear, so we'll escape."
Yeah, he's he's a depressed boy, but he comes to the conclusion like you might as well try um one last time to kind of like make a difference because he's all
He already
right.
made this decision too.
Yeah, he's rightfully so depressed because every time he has the immense survivor's guilt of survivor's guilt because all of his people die all the time. Uh, so he thinks himself kind of like a plague upon whoever he meets. It reminds me of there's a Gundam show called Eighth MS Team, and they get a character in who's like every time he's in a squad, all of his squad members die except him. So he's called like the Black Reaper. So yeah, so yeah, it's
Nobody
kind of like
wants him
this.
on his squad. Their
Yeah,
squad.
so they get him on. It's like the third mission every time only when he's on squad, like his entire squad dies except for him. So yeah, it's all the survivor's guilt and all that stuff. So that's basically Kaladin. He could be a mecha pilot. Um, yeah, it's good. I like Syl a lot. She's cool.
Yeah, she mentioned something important to note here. She mentions that she used to help men kill, but she doesn't remember how or any of the details. So what's that about?
Yeah, and this is the start of also of Teft being like, Kaladin, are you magic? But not saying you're magic, which is kind of annoying. I wish Teft would just like it just kind of like um pads the book a little bit of just like not just being like, hey Kaladin, listen up. I was an Invisitor. I know you have magic. You can suck Stormlight from coins. That's why you had done coins all the time. Let's do some magic stuff. But he just was like beating around the bush, being very passive aggressive. Kaladin, you feel weird lately? He's like, what are you talking about? Of course, I just survived the high storm. So it's kind of annoying, but
Yeah,
other than that, like
it
this.
reminds. Did you ever watch the show The Blacklist or any like at
Mm,
least start it?
yeah.
So like he's like maybe I'm your dad,
Mm,
and like three seasons in, it's like maybe I'm your dad. I'm like, okay, are you her dad or not? Like,
yeah. I just remember that show being really bad. One of the worst I've seen of like teleportation. They're like in Florida or something. It's like, oh, we need to get here, and they just teleport there. Like, and it seems like no time has passed because it's like the way they structure that show. It's like, the bad guy of the week's in like DC, and then like freaking James Spader's in like somewhere else, and they just like show up at the right scene. That show was fun, if really dumb.
yeah, I didn't finish. I didn't.
I didn't finish it either because yeah, like you said, they're like maybe the mystery will be solved. Nope. Maybe season two the mystery will be solved. Nope. We're gonna
Nope.
get more vague hints. It's like fine.
Yeah, I'll just
Luckily that doesn't happen in this book. It's just kind of some parts of it are like that, which is annoying.
you know.
Especially if like if Teft was like not an Invisitor or didn't know anything, like maybe he just like heard stories about something and he's like, oh, maybe I'll like I don't know how you do research as a slave or whatever, but at least like be like, Kaladin, maybe your magic. We could start like testing it out or something like that. I don't know. It just would be better, in my opinion.
Yeah, but maybe I mean it could go either one of two ways. Like it could give Bridge Four more hope, or it could cause them to distance themselves from him as well.
Yeah, like maybe like even if it was just like him and Kaladin alone, and they could like start, thinking about it, or make have Kaladin start coming to the realization that he's magical.
No, I get that. Yeah. Let's move on, Teft. Tell him.
Yep.
Uh so yeah, we'll get to the weeping, which is moving a little bit forward in the past on his flashbacks. So we're now 5 years ago. Um and so it's during the weeping, which we find out that a weeping is like a 4 week reign to mark the end of the year. Which sounds like it sucks. Um, I do you note that throughout this book also they'll refer to some people like by their 20th weeping or X number of weeping. So it's not like, oh, by their birthday. They'll I think how old a person is based on how many weepings they've gone through.
It has to only be an Alethkar thing, right? It can't rain at the end of the year the entire planet because that'd be weird. So I guess like everybody else is like, what? Your 24th? What? Oh, okay, weird.
Yeah, I don't know,
I mean,
maybe.
maybe like Jakavek because it's right next to it, but like I would assume like Shin and like all the other places farther away from Althkar don't do birthdays like that.
Maybe. I don't know. So
Yeah.
um yeah, the first half there wasn't much to do in the first half. It's just kind of like they're sitting on the roof patching small holes, and Tien joins them. Then they see Roshon or Amaram is marching in through the town. Nobody's seen Roshon for a while. Um, Tien gives Kaladin a wooden horse that he made. Find out that Tien sucks at being well. he sucks at being a carpenter's apprentice because he doesn't do the work the carpenter tells him, but he's amazing woodworker. um, then let's see, Kaladin, Tien, and their mother talk about Kaladin going off to be a scholar and making the family proud. Then they all go off to the town square. Roshone makes an appearance with Laurel, and she's got a bridal prayer that's on her sleeve, and so everybody's like, "Oh no, she's going to marry Roshone. Like Roshone's gonna marry. Like, was Roshone? What happened to Roshone's wife? Like, is
I don't
what
know.
happened to Wistiel's wife? Like, why aren't these bright lords with children married? Like,
Yeah, it's weird. I would assume it's weird that both of the mothers are gone. Because like if Rashon was a widower, okay, fine. Because like they don't do polygamy in Elokar. Um, and like it's weird. Like I don't know why she does it. Like she's not forced to do it. So like she could go. I mean, I guess she's not quite doesn't have that much standing, but she could like go to another town and like she's still like the heir to a Bright Lord's fortune and stuff, and she could probably find another match if she wanted to. It seems like she's just like locked up and like with this family, which is really weird. I don't know. This I wish it would be more clear about her motivations for this.
it, I mean, I just feel like one, Roshone is kind of forcing it a little bit.
Yeah,
Um, but also two, Laurel has be distanced herself um from Kaladin since her father.
yeah, I understand that, but it just seems like she has no family at all. Like with just her and her dad, and like no other uncles or aunts and of other because they were Bright Lords, so she probably has decent high connections at other places. It just seems like it's just weird. It's a weird thing because it seems like she would have gone once her father died. She would have gone to stay with like a family member in another town. Maybe if like that family member was influential, it would have maybe been in the capital or something like that. And like she would have gotten her inheritance from, you know, her father dying and all that stuff. So she would be of means. Um, and she would have more options. She seems like she's just like stuck. And I get that like Rashon wants to marry her and get the power of that. But I don't know why she does and why she doesn't have any like family members helping her. Like it seems like she's like almost like a dark eye in like the power dynamics of this, which I don't know why. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like
It is strange. It's
it's not the
definitely strange.
biggest thing. It was just like if you think about it, it's one of the things that I think may or may not be a plot hole. Just like, or maybe I just don't understand enough of you know, Elcar society of why this is happening. But it's strange. And then Kaladin volunteers as tribute. It's very
Yes.
Hunger Games.
Yeah, I wrote that. So it reminds me of Hunger Games. Yeah. So Emram's in town to recruit for the army. And Roshone put Tien's name down to be taken. Because he's not required, like he's the second or third apprentice of the carpenter, so he's not necessary. He's not needed, so he can't he can be have his name put. Kaladin could not have his name put down because he was the first apprentice to a surgeon. Then after uh Tien's name is called, Kaladin volunteers to go with him, offers to take his place to begin with, but then Rashone's like, no, I want him gone. It's like, well, I'll go too. At which point Amaranth's like, okay, anybody can sign up. Sure, come on. I need more people if you want to die.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hunger Games plot right there.
Yeah, and the sad. The dad is sad because he thinks both of his sons are gonna die, and so this is what? How many years ago is this?
Five
5 years ago.
5 years. Yeah.
So we get later stuff of when Tien actually dies, but I don't know. It's weird that they would take that he would be in combat so soon. I guess yeah. I guess like old school things had like pages and boys that would do the drums and marching drums and stuff. So I guess he's gonna be one of those. So it makes sense. But yeah, Rashon gets his revenge on the family and shows that Laren should have killed him when he had the chance, because he's a terrible person. I wonder if we're gonna meet him again. Like Kaladin's gonna come back and he's gonna be all like radiant up and be like justice and like stab him in the face or something. Be cool. Yep. Okay. Seems like you froze for a second.
I have no comment on the last thing you said.
I don't remember if that happens or not, but hopefully it does because he seems like an asshole.
Kaladin needs some revenge, though.
Yeah, he does. He's got a lot of people. He has enough to like do a Kill Bill type revenge spree with Rashon and Amaram. And,
Yeah.
Maybe Gas. No, Gas is he kind of doesn't hate Gas, so he wouldn't do Gas.
No, Gaz doesn't need to die.
Yes.
He has some purpose.
So that's kind of the conclusion of like these flashbacks. I think they're fine. Like I've said, I think they go on a little too long. They're good character building and stuff. Could probably cut out a couple of chapters of the flashbacks, especially if hopefully like Laurel comes back. So it's important that we know her, and like hopefully we meet his family again. So like the mother seems interesting. She seems to kind of know stuff. I forget where she's from, but she seems cool. And like the father's like they're all good and it's important stuff, but I hope it comes back in the future. I don't remember if it does.
I mean, there really is a lot of parallel between him as a kid in these flashbacks and him in the army and the bridge crew.
Yeah. It's good character building and world building.
Yeah.
I will say on rereads, I kind of already know this stuff. I'm like, I can kind of skim through this. I didn't do it this time, but like when I've read it the second or third time, I'm like, I'm good with the flashbacks.
I can see that. Yeah. All right, so Child of Tanavast. So we're back. We start off with a dream. So Kaladin is dreaming. He's in a high storm flying over Roshar. I'm pretty sure he sees Seth.
Yeah, he definitely sees Seth.
And I think Shallan.
Maybe.
Like a red-haired. He sees a red-haired woman. While you look through, he hears a voice in the storm, which calls him a child of honor, and tells him the oath pacts are shattered and that odium reigns. So we've heard the name odium before from the letters, the epigraphs in part 2. Yeah, in the last part. So we got a nice little connection to there. When he wakes up, Kaladin wakes up, Bridge 4 is holding him down. And they tell him that he tried to go out into the high storm.
Yeah, you're correct. Flashes of light came from directly ahead, so transfixing, brushing past a pretty gold and red-haired woman who huddled frightened in a corner. Kaladin burst through a door. He had one brief glimpse of what lay beyond. So I'm pretty sure that he saw her when she was huddled from the Cthulhu monsters, and when like Yasna broke down the door.
Okay.
That's what at least that's what I. Yeah, and then he sees a man who stood over two corpses. He sees Zeth.
Now, who did he kill? Was this during the interludes this time or the interludes last time? Or somewhere in between?
Somewhere in between. And it seems like he can see Caliban. He had large shin eyes. So yeah.
So Seth apparently can see Kaladin flying through the high storm.
Apparently, that's what he says. He seems to have seen him.
Ah. Yeah. So yeah, Kaladin wakes up from the dream. He tried to go into the high storm during the dream. Rock then shaves Kaladin's face. And then we get Sigil telling a story of Baba Tharnum, where the oldest person becomes the king, and then they'll kill anybody old enough to challenge them in the family, so the family can keep passing down their reign from place to place. And the point of that story is that any place can be corrupt. So if they said here, Kaladin remembers. This is later on in the chapter, but basically, any place there's going to be somebody that they're prejudiced and discriminate. There's going to be prejudice and discrimination anywhere you go. Basically, somebody is. Gaz then brings a bridge recruit, which the new Mattel or Hashal, his wife, appointed them a new one, who ends up being a parshman that doesn't speak. Bridge 4 doesn't trust him. They don't like Parshman. Kaladin stands up for him, says he's one of them now. Basically gives him his name of Shin. And so when Bridge 4 was making fun of Shin, he remembered, he said, if you were to overthrow the Light Eyes and place yourselves in power, abuses would still happen. They'd just happen to other people. And so he's seeing this, and this is where Kaladin's becoming more like his dad. So like in juxtaposition to Kaladin would have killed Roshon if he was in that position where his dad didn't. It's like, oh, okay. Yes, we hate the Light Eyes because of what they do to us, but here we are doing the same thing to somebody that we view as lower than us. And he kind of has that light bulb moment where, like, no, we're not going to be this way. He is one of us because he is put in here. And he also realizes that the only thing worse than a bridgeman is a parshman bridgeman.
Yeah, I will say it's a little weird that he names him Shin when you have a people named Shin.
Right.
Be like, hey, you're Japan. That's your name. But what? I don't know. It's kind of strange that he names him that. But I like Shin. It's really interesting to get more Parshmen. Because they're kind of always in the background but never in the foreground. Which is, but yeah, I like his dream. Kind of, it's fun to reread and kind of parse where all he went and saw. I don't know if I'm gonna guess that since the Stormfather saw him, it's kind of the Stormfather kind of giving him these dreams. At least that's my kind of guess. And
kind of feel like it's the same thing that's happening to Dalinar.
Maybe. I don't know. He's not seeing the past though.
No, he's not seeing the past, but yeah, it happened during a high storm.
Oh, true. Yeah.
So,
and Tanavest is another herald, so it kind of confirms more that he's magic.
is Tanavest a herald, or is that another name for honor, or Almighty.
I just assumed it was a herald. I don't remember all 10 of their names, but
Yeah, I don't remember all 10 of their names either, but I think so. There were a couple of different names. He was a child of honor, a child of Tanavast. Yeah, I think Tanavast is an alternate name of honor for honor.
I assumed it was like the on in the name of the honor herald,
Okay.
but maybe not. I don't know. We could look it up. We get a little mention of the Oath Pact and Odium, whatever that is. He's a strongest of the 16. Cosmere bullshit.
Yeah. So in Kaladin, so Kaladin is walking and talking with Syl and brings up the old magic and the Night Watcher. And then he asks if Syl knows of an odium. And
She hisses like a cat. So apparently she does.
yeah, she's like, um, and then it moves on as he's walking through the war camp. He witnesses a light eye officer and a whore
Oh, yeah, he
being
meets
dumped out.
Adolin.
Yeah, definitely Adolin. And I like how the POVs in books that use POVs where they don't know who a person is. Like if you pay attention to a description, you could figure it out. But here, Adolin had to introduce himself. And so Kaladin and Adolin meet. Adolin stepped in to protect the whore from Sadeas's officers. He even summoned his shard blade. And then at the end, Kaladin does not deliver Adolin's message to Bright Lord Raral, but he does keep the Emerald Sphere that Adolin gave him. And Syl notes that she doesn't like how Cal's personality changes when he thinks of Light Eyes. She's like, you're not a happy person. You're not a pleasant person. Like, you're not a good person when you think about Light Eyes and this. And I mean, rightfully so. But we see him changing and standing up for people. So, maybe he's taking a step somewhere.
Yes.
Taking a journey.
I like we're starting a little by little to get some integration between the storylines. We had the Shallan little cameo and Dalinar's thing, and now we get an Adolin cameo and Kaladin. And so slowly starting to coalesce, very, very slowly. But yeah, so he sees that at least one Light Eyes, and Dalinar's people have the reputation of being honorable, so he sees at least he sees it in action. So hopefully not all Light Eyes are evil like he thinks.
All right. Now we move on to chapter 47, Storm Blessings. And so this chapter, it bookends chapter 1, but from Kaladin's point of view. So we get one section which happens before chapter 1. Then chapter 1 happens from the point of view of Sin, and then the next POV section in this chapter picks up right after it. And it's a year ago, so we skipped 3 years or 4 years.
Yeah, the last one was 5 years ago.
Yeah, so the 4 years of Kaladin training in the army and etc. we have missed. It doesn't seem like it's been that long since Tien died.
Yeah, but we do know Tien is dead.
Yes, we find out Tien is dead here. Cal is bribing Gare, who's a squad leader for Sin. He's like, I want Sin, I'll pay you this.
He's doing that because of his brother. We kind of already knew this from chapter 1, but yeah, it's good to see it from Kaladin's perspective. he's getting the dude and Dalit, and he has all of his cool peeps. He's kind of made a squad. Um, and he, like it kind of shows more of his like tactics because like they already picked out like a hill to go to and things like that. Um, yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, I love it. And then so like it shows him picking out Sin and then meeting Sin, and then cuts to the end of Sin from chapter 1, where we find out Sin actually does die.
Yeah.
So Kaladin, he kills the Bright Lord in the regular armor. Then the Shard Bearer tears through and kills
Yeah.
Dalit and Sin.
I'll say I really like this because so far we've only seen shard bearers on our side, just a moment, but like they're so terrifying because it's just like yeah, send out like all of his people just die like immediately because like the shard blades are just that powerful. It's pretty crazy, but yeah, it just shows how terrifying they are.
Yeah, they are very terrifying. It sounds like Callan's just like, oh my god, that was like so instant.
Yeah, because
And
he's
then
like he hasn't
Callan,
lost like a single person in the battle. Like they're doing all good, and then he just shows up and like kills like 25 of them, like no problem.
yeah, but like Kaladin's response is to rush after the Shard Bearer with all of his squad and be like, all right, we got to take care of that guy. And so they corner him, and he kills like the other like 23 or whatever people in his squad, nearly all of his people. I think at the end it was just Kaladin and 2 people or 4
Yeah,
people.
three or four, something like that.
There's 4 people. And so Kaladin fights him with this spear or his knife too. Yeah, his
Yeah,
knife. He tries to jab the knife, like he sees the weakness in the visor. He tries to jab his knife in, but it hits the outside and he loses it. But then he sees the spearhead later on, like floating in the air, and he grabs it and he jams it in, uh, killing the shard bearer, and decides not to take the shard and gives it to his man Korib instead, because he did not want something like every time he would use it, he would remember that his squad was killed with that. And that it's just too much of a powerful artifact that he doesn't think he should be in charge of.
then you become a light eye,
Yeah.
which he doesn't want to do.
He doesn't want to become the thing that he hates.
Yeah, he hates the light eyes. I will say, Kaladin is pretty dumb in this thing. Like Kaladin is not the smartest person in the woodshed because like he could just give it away later or like
He's very stubborn
yeah.
to certain beliefs.
Like, and you see this in this section as well, because like he doesn't take into account what's going to happen when he's side carry. Like he's very like right then and there. He doesn't have long term like thinking at all. So he's just like, yeah, I'll just give it away to this guy. Oh wait, this most powerful guy that I just saved, that would that this shard blade and shard plate's worth a kingdom is just gonna allow me to give it to this lowly dark eyes, and that's gonna work out really well. I'm just gonna go back to being a regular spearman. Huzzah! Like, come on, Cal. Like, come on, man. Like, be a little smarter.
Yeah. So he walks back to the war camp alone. I like the title of the chapter did kind of throw back to chapter 1 as well, because chapter 1 was Storm Blessed and this one is Storm Blessings. Doesn't seem like he's getting very many blessings in that chapter, really.
Yeah. Once again, like the fights in these books, or in this book, they're really good. Him like fighting a full shard bearer and doing all of his like maneuvers, trying to get to the weakness is all really fun. Him, kind of anime saving Amaran when he's fixing to get skewered by the shard blade is all really fun. Yeah, the combat in this book is really well written. It's always fun to see. There's not a crazy amount of it for how long the book is, but it's always well done.
I agree.
Yep. So
And to care, the last present day chapter for Kaladin here. They're in the chasm doing chasm duty. Teft asks if Cal still feels sick in the head. He's like, you okay there? Like you don't seem right. Um, he's like, nah, I'm cool. And so starts teaching them the spear. He's like, I'm gonna teach you how to use a spear. And the first lesson is that you need to learn is it's all right to care. Um, lesson is dad taught him. And second lesson is before you learn to fight, you need to learn how to stand. Um, that really just kind of the whole skill acquisition with spears and then practicing. Um, you know, he thinks Kaladin thinks a lot about it through repetition and just body reflexes. Um, it just reminds me of jujitsu and a whole lot of other stuff, but jujitsu is an easy one because it's just so talked about and drilled about with, oh yeah, you need to drill it so often so you commit it to muscle memory because when you're in those situations, you don't necessarily have time to think, okay, this hand goes here, this hand goes here, and you outstretch this arm, then bring the foot here. Like you don't
yeah,
have you don't have time to think through all of that.
yeah. I'm not a martial artist or anything, but I know through just reading and like watching. It's even like football. It's basically every physical thing, like your stance, your center of gravity, so you won't get like knocked out of your way, is super important. And you gotta learn that first. I'm sure. Well, jujitsu is mostly ground stuff, right? But did you learn stances, like how to like
There's a lot
plant
of
your feet so you don't get taken to the ground in jujitsu?
yeah, there's a whole lot of stand-up games and throws and tosses and takedowns. So, if you stand with your feet together, you're going to get knocked down pretty good. Or if you cross your feet over one another, you don't have a good balance. So, um, they teach takedown classes at my gym, so they're pretty good.
Yeah.
And then we
And
got a lot of judo guys. So
I do like how he's like because they're basically like broken down to nothing, that they're also now 300 ripped, like they're like some of the best soldiers you could want. Because I know a lot of like you know uh boot camps and stuff, like their entire thing is like ground you to nothing so they can build you back up. And they've been ground to nothing, these bridgemen, so they're just able to build up and like absorb all of Kaladin's teachings. I mean, Kaladin is basically a savant at the spear, so I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with.
I agree. So while they're teaching in Teft, so he Kaladin, or rather Teft gave away that he has some training of some sort. And so Kaladin was actually able to have Teft go off and like lead the drills while he talked to Rock Lopin, Shin, and Dabid and set them responsible with Sill's help for actually doing the chasm duty job. Because obviously they still need to do the job. If they return back with nothing, then they were like, what the hell are y'all doing down here? And then send somebody down to monitor them. And those people were picked because, I mean, Lopin because he's only got one arm, Dabid because he's kind of not all there, Rock because he doesn't fight and he's a pacifist, and Shin because he's a parshman.
Yeah, because apparently in the horn eater culture, the order of your birth is kind of like your profession, which is interesting.
Yep.
Um, and so like I think it's It's what the second
The
sons
first
fight.
the first two are cooks.
Yeah, and the third fight.
The third is a craftsman, and then the fourth is the soldier.
So either they are having lots of sons or they have no soldiers.
Yeah, I mean they said they don't fight often. They get drunk and
True, but like, don't tell that to Lethe. They'll be like, all right, we'll send like one company to go conquer the Horn, the
no.
Peaks, because they have like maybe 20 soldiers. Because yeah, that's funny. Eh, dude, it's a weird. I wonder if I would have to look. I need to look it up, see if there's any like real world culture that did profession by like birth, besides like obviously like noble rule and all that stuff. Or if Brandon just kind of made that up on the spot.
We'll see.
I'll have to check that out. I might do some research in the couple weeks we're off, or the week we're off.
All right, so and then in addition to that, Kaladin gives Rock the job of mapping out the chasms. So, and that's that. We shall see how much kung fu they learn. What's that? Why did my mind go blank? Cobra Kai. They're Cobra Kaiing it up in the chasm here now. So
that they are.
And then we'll go to the last of the flashbacks for this section. And I don't know if there are any more in the book, but it doesn't matter because we're just dealing with this part right now.
Yep.
So it goes 1 year ago, and it's after the war, or not the war, after that battle. And Kaladin's sitting in Amaram's war center all alone. And he's been there for a little while. And he's thinking about why he doesn't feel like a hero after killing a Shardblade, and asking himself, why did he protect Amaram? And like Amaram, he's like, he's supposed to be different than all the other Light Eyes. He has a reputation. Like he lets different squads of his Dark Eye soldiers into his war center during high storms. He like rotates through that. Whereas none of the other High Lords or Bright Eyes do that. And so then Amarang comes in talking about theories of the Shard Bearer, like who sent him, where is he from. He thinks Thydakar and the Ghost Blood sent the Shard Bearer. Who the hell are these people?
Well, I've heard that name once with Gavilar, so
Yeah, that Thydakar was mentioned by Gavilar in the prologue of this book. Like Gavilar thought Thydakar sent somebody to kill him. So, yeah. So why does Amaram think that Thydakar and the Ghostbloods? So now we know that Thydakar is associated with the Ghostbloods,
yeah,
whoever the Ghostbloods are.
but doesn't seem to be working with them if they're trying to kill him, unless I don't know, he betrayed them or something.
What? No, I think Thydakar and the Ghostbloods are working together.
Yeah, but Amaram's not working
Right.
with
Amaram is
Ghostbloods.
not part of the Ghostbloods. Yeah.
But he at least knows of them, and we know. So maybe he was more in like involved with Gavilar than we know.
Yes. Amaram. You mean Amaram?
Yeah, Amaram. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Amaram is Sadius's man, and Sadius was
Yeah. So maybe it's
good friends with Gavilar and Dalinar.
yeah. So maybe Sadius also knows about the Ghost Bloods.
Maybe so.
We'll have to see.
So then when he asked Kaladin why he didn't keep the shard blade, and Kaladin says, I can't tell you. I can't answer that. He has some of his men bring in the four uh, only 4 surviving members of Kaladin's men, or maybe the only 4 that were there that witnessed him kill the shard bearer and give the shard to Koreb. And he has them kill those 4 men. And then Amram takes the shard for himself and brands Kaladin as a deserter. Says it's a mercy to make him a slave and not to have killed him, but nobody would have believed it was dangerous to keep 4 people or 5 people alive that could corroborate that story than just him. And Amaram would be seen as weak if that story got out. So yeah, I mean, kind of sucks for.
It makes sense. And it just shows that, and it's weird. Just weird because Kaladin already doesn't like dark eyes. I know Amaram's supposed to be different. But
He doesn't like light eyes.
and white eyes, yeah, white eyes. Amaram's supposed to be different, but like, come on, Cat, what do you expect was going to happen?
Right.
Like, I'm just gonna give the shard blade to this random dude and not have like severe consequences happen. Just that, like, it's fine. I think I would like something a little different, a little smarter than for Kaladin. But
So
Kaladin's always already shown to be kind of stupid, so it's fine.
yeah, but what would Amaram have done if Kaladin had kept it himself?
uh, if Kaladin did it the right way, there'd be no hiding, right? If Kaladin like took the shard blade, let's say pledged himself to Amaram, right, and then like Amaram could use that as like political power, like that sort of thing would have worked. Or like he had the shard blade and he's a dude that just killed a shard bearer, they wouldn't like betray him so easily because like he could just kill them all. I don't know, like, because also showed that he wasn't ambitious enough, and like in Alethi society, that's pretty much a pretty grave sin to like not be ambitious and want to rise up. So it was like kind of like, okay, this guy doesn't even want it. He doesn't deserve it. I need it. Kill him. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, it's sad. And Kaladin, I mean, I will say, yeah, I mean, it makes sense that he made him a slave to like save him since he saved his life and things like that. It's very tragic. His entire team's dead, and he cannot trust the Light Eyes.
That so that's Kaladin's section for this part. We'll see. We know how he got there now and why he was branded a deserter. Saznan is the name of the chapter, and it's the glyph pair. And so what's funny is when I wrote this, I was like, does that mean without rank? Like, because like Saz it reminds me of Sans, so without something. And then Non, when I wrote this, I was thinking Don, which is like the rank of the caste system that's in this world. But Non it's very similar, but yeah. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Interludes now. Got some interesting interludes. It seems like we get 2 interludes of random stuff and then one of Seth.
Seth killing people.
Yeah. So the first one, interlude 7, is Baxel. This one was it was bizarre and hilarious to me. So like Baxel and Av are Emili. They're from Emil, the country of Emil or whatever, Emui or Enu. I think I was a victim of autocorrect here.
Uh, um,
uh, but yeah, they're sneaking through a house with their master, who's not named. And they're in the house of Ashno of Sages, who's like the wealthiest priest or whatever, wherever they are at. And their master, instead of stealing stuff, she's like slashing paintings and destroying all this rich stuff that's in the house. Meanwhile, Baxel and Av are just having a conversation.
yeah, this I'll say this like is a whole lot of another like to me it's just like you get some information about the old magic and like that's kind of cool. Maybe this lady will show back up. She seems cool. Um, I don't know. Like, there's like a whole lot of nothing. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know.
It's funny. Like the story is funny,
Yeah,
but it was a way to get us to know about the old magic and the Night Watcher, and the fact that the old magic, you go to the Night Watcher, ask for a boon, and you're granted the boon, but a curse as well.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
kind of correlate that with Dalinar
yes.
and his wife. Um, yeah, like I said, it's cool. It's kind of like a nothing. A lot of these interludes are kind of like nothing. They're like, oh, okay, that happened. All right, maybe that will come back later.
No,
Like,
I totally get your feeling because that's how it was before, but like now that I'm just like I've read just about everything in the Cosmere, and like I would just take things as the stories that they were and would miss a lot of stuff. And then I went and I was like reading a few wikis and things like that. I was like, okay. And then when I read Lost Metal, I was just like, all right, now I'm gonna start to try to connect everything. So
yeah, like
um
hope she comes back. She seems like a cool little thief lady that we don't know her name. So
or maybe yeah, it was interesting that we don't find out her name, which makes me think that she might pop up sometime later. But also it would be interesting to come back and see Baxel after he finds the Night Watcher and see what his boon and curse are.
true.
So yeah, that's that. Interlude 8 is Jaranid, who is a female ardent, and her partner in crime is Asher. Um, that is not what I named my character after in Caleb's campaign, by the way. But they're in a house on the Reshi Islands, and they've been studying Spren, or Jaranid has been studying Spren and has discovered a way to lock them in a state. Um, this is where we find out the names of the three realms: the spiritual realm, physical realm, and the cognitive realm, which is also known as Shadesmar. So that connects us back to that chapter, Shadesmar.
Yeah, and it seems like at least in whoever these people are, it's a known thing. Shadesmar.
Yeah, and this chapter, they're just studying Spren, and it really reminds me of like Schrodinger's cat and superposition, like quantum entanglement. So like once they measure and observe and write down the size of the Spren, it's stuck in that state now. But you can't just like make up a number either. Like you have to actually measure it and then write it down.
Yeah, it's cool. Like it's just more world building type stuff. I doubt these people will ever come back. Maybe they will, but yeah, it's just like
I don't
more
think it
sprint
matters if
information.
I don't think it matters if they do.
Yeah,
The sprint information and the realm information was like the key points here to me.
yeah, it's yeah, just more world building. It's good to learn more about the sprint. You get that very slowly throughout this novel. Other than that, I don't really have much left.
No. And then the final interlude here is Death Wears White. So Seth is we don't know if he's done any other killed any other people on the list that he was given to by his new master at the end of the last interlude, but here he is. He's been told to kill as many people as he can on his way to killing King Hadavanar of Yakoved. That is definitely a name. So
I do love how each time he's introduced, it's his full name.
yeah,
Seth
Son
Vallano.
Vallano
Truthless of Shinovar. Yeah.
wore white on the night he killed the king.
Yeah, every interlude so far, it started off as his full name.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, it's just another cool fight scene. He kills the king. It's like, yeah, he's still doing stuff in this book. Still remember him. He's doing stuff.
Why is he killing the king of Yakoved? I don't know.
Well, he got orders to do that. We saw that in the last interlude.
Right. I understand that.
Oh, okay.
Why do his masters want the king of Yakoved killed?
Yeah.
And
like
we do find out that we have confirmation now here that the what Vadens, is that what they're called in Yakoved? They have definitely created half shards.
Yeah. And they're cool. They're big shields.
Yeah. That are powered by the gemstone on the back of it. And the king of Yakoved had 2 shard bearers that were hiding under his table. And he was trying to bait him. He was trying to bait Seth over there, and they were gonna jump out.
Yeah.
So Seth had a lot of fun here. Brandon played a lot with the lashings to kind of give us readers an idea of what the lashings could do. So like he did quarter lashings, half lashings, double and triple lashings. So like if you double or triple your lashings, you would go at a faster speed. Like the quarter lashing would like allowed you to like float a little bit at a certain height. A half lashing made you weightless. So like 0 G, you're just floating around with no gravity at all. But yeah, that it was a lot of fun. And this is the chapter where he said it doesn't bother him anymore to stand on stone.
Yeah. So like I wish we got a little bit more information about Seth in this chapter, but it's basically just a giant fight scene. It's really cool. It's fun to read, just like all the fights in this book. But don't really get too much more information about him. It's just kind of a cool fight scene to punctuate this into this section of reading.
Yeah,
I don't really have too much more to say on this.
No, it's a nice anime fight.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, that was a fun part. That was just fun section. Next week's episode, I'm going to be joined by a guest, somebody that runs a different Sanderson fan page Instagram account.
Collecting them all.
Yeah, I'm Pokemon master, Pokemon trainer master. I'm gonna collect them all. So we're gonna do a short episode since you and I can't do our longer form to cover chapter 4. And then the following week, you and I will reconvene and discuss chapters 4, parts 4 and 5.
We're gonna finish the book.
To finish the book, so.
Which I am excited for because I'm ready to get into Words of Radiance because I remember that one being fun.
Yes, I am excited to get further into the Stormlight Archives. So if you've made it to the end of this long episode, congratulations. Thank you. Go ahead visit our sponsor, Mudcat Whiskers, at mudcatwhiskers.com. Use code paperweights at checkout to save you some dough. Click like, share, follow. Leave us a rating if you want. We're on Apple Podcast, Spotify Podcast, YouTube. So wherever you're going, wherever you listen to us, feel free to leave us a rating. It helps us gain a little popularity. Not that I want to be popular on this, but the more people that listen, then we can have bigger conversations and have more fun. So, and with that, this episode's done, Justin.
Yeah, it's a beast. I think part 4 and 5 is also going to be a beast. So strap in.
Yes, it's going to be 4 and 5 together might be our longest episode. And I thought this one was long. So it'll be fun. And I will see you in 2 weeks.
All right, see you, Brandon.